factor. It has not improved. And that is the real measure about how much energy is going back in the economy. So don't be fooled by the manipulators again. Don't be manipulated in this election, because they are manipulating you to think that load shedding is a thing of the past while they're planning load shedding up to stage 16.
Defense Counsel Zandile Mshololo has apologized on behalf of Advocate Thulani Ngomezulu, who represents accused number 1 in the Senzo Meyiwa trial. This follows disappointment expressed by Judge Rata Mokhatleng that Ngomezulu informed the High Court registrar of his absence this morning and did not communicate with him directly. The trial, where 5 men are accused of the murder of Bafana captain, has adjourned until Monday, as the defense still needs more bank documents from the state. Advocate Mshololo says they are under the impression they are not to contact the judge directly.
Counsel for accused number 1 must start the cross-examination. That's the procedure, not me. Then he tells me, this so-called judge, tell him that I'll cross-examine after. What do the ethics say?
No, the ethics says, my lord, we're not allowed to communicate direct with the judge. We'll communicate via the registry.
Unless, I don't know that rule.
It's like that, my lord. That's why we're not allowed to communicate direct with the judge. That's why we communicate via the registrar.
Some residents of Mahikeng in the northwest say democracy has created various problems, including creating state-dependent citizens and corrupt government leaders. Others expressed frustration over socioeconomic challenges, including poverty, unemployment, crime, and poor service delivery of basic services.
I feel like right now we are using all this power we have in a wrong way because of there's a lot of corruption and undeveloped projects.
To be honest, I do not see democracy benefiting us in any way because most people in South Africa are unemployed. The way I see democracy today is not the same as how I saw it then. Yes, we are free now, but some people are free to enrich themselves and they abuse this democracy.
In other news, the ANC's Women's League head of elections, Phemi Majodina, says the party has not done enough to strategically deploy women to positions of power. She's speaking to the SABC on the sidelines of the launch of the Winnie Madikizela Mandela Brigades at the Buffalo City Stadium in East London in the Eastern Cape. Majodina says the party placement of women in positions of power should reflect the demographics.
The strategic deployment of women in strategic areas is not yet fulfilled. Hence, we are mobilizing our women that were in the majority in the country in terms of the population. It is us who on daily basis carry the brand of poverty, and therefore we must be there so that we can speak on behalf of millions of women in this province. If you check on the registration, according to the IEC, the highest percentage of those who registered are women.
And lastly, Google's parent company Alphabet is on course for market evaluation of over $3 trillion, or more than 57 trillion rand. Its chief executive, Sundar Pichai, says the company has great momentum thanks to its leadership in artificial intelligence. The BBC's Erin Delmore has more.
One standout spot for Alphabet was Google Cloud revenue, which jumped 28% in Q1. A lot of generative AI tools rely on the cloud to reach customers. Alphabet announced some good news for investors, its first ever dividend of 20 cents per share, and an additional $70 billion buyback. That initially sent shares into the double digits after the bell.
Recapping the top story for this hour, DA leader John Steenhuisen has warned South Africans not to be fooled over what he calls load shedding manipulation. This comes as the country has gone 30 days without load shedding. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour for SFM News. I'm Eva Chipa.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Telkom Netball League gets underway today. Burnley boss Company says that he is not happy to adding to Manchester United's poor form as Zane Geldenhuys targets an Olympic Games 400-meter hurdles final in Paris. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Hello, Your Choice Hotline.
Hi, I need you to help me make a choice.
Well, with Ford, you get to make your own choices. Like on a new Ford Ranger, Ford Puma, Ford Everest, and the Ford Tourneo bus. There's a flexible deal for every budget at your nearest Ford dealership today. Limited time offer. Your Ford, your choice. T&Cs apply.
Lindelani ladies are on a massive search for 3 points, but TS Galaxy ladies say they will travel back from eThekwini with a song of jubilance. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the queens of the beautiful game, Lindelani Ladies FC versus TS Galaxy Ladies FC, on Sunday 28 April at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, so, 27th of April, 1994, 30 years ago, Freedom Day, the day we voted, right? But, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last day or two. Freedom Day is far more than just the day we voted. It's far more than just the day that democracy was born in South Africa. It's certainly far more than just having the right to vote. So, 30 years later, it's a day for us to hold on to upholding the lofty ideals of our nation builders, isn't it? Because freedom, as opposed to Freedom Day, freedom provides the oxygen for all the people of South Africa to fulfill their massive potential. That, for me, is what freedom is. Provides the oxygen to realize your potential. If you do not, then your freedom is being hampered, okay? So, remember Freedom Day. You must commemorate Freedom Day. But also at this time, as we often say, Happy Freedom Day, go beyond that. Think about Freedom Day as a signpost to measure what we have achieved in eradicating poverty, in inequality, in the issues of unemployment, crime, racism, in the point that I made earlier, which is, does freedom in South Africa right now give every single person that lives in South Africa the opportunity to maximize their lives to the fullest potential? And if the answer is no to that, then Freedom Day is not a single day. It's a signpost, it's a journey. It's a measurement by which we have to measure ourselves as a country. So in many ways, in that sense, Freedom Day is really the State of the Nation Day, or Freedom Day is in fact the State of South Africa's People Day. I'm Ashraf Garda, and that's my point.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
And that's what I want you to talk about. Welcome to the show. It's Friday afternoon. Tomorrow is indeed Freedom Day. And I want you to talk about that in terms of what Freedom Day means to you, okay? I've made my point already that it's not just simply it's not simply a day of just celebration, but it's certainly not a day of no celebration either. For those who pick out so many of the problems we have in our country and they say, like, what is there to celebrate? No, I think Freedom Day provides the oxygen for each one of us to breathe to our fullest potential. But at the same time, whatever prevents us from doing just that are the issues we need to focus on every single year as we get to Freedom Day. Now, do add to that, because I want to know what you think about Freedom Day and the state of freedom in our country. So what do you understand by freedom? And you can connect, by calling in 086 000 2032. To save that number, like on your phone all the time. You can also save the WhatsApp number, which you can text or voice note us, 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. And whether you're on the social media platforms, on the SFM Facebook or X account, you can tweet us using the hashtag The National Pulse. Tag me as well, Ashraf Garda. So, a lot to talk about today. I can tell you as well, just to fast forward to after 5 o'clock, you know that we had that feature called the Fireside Chat. Well, have you ever heard of the Lazy Makoti? Well, we're going to talk to her after 5. But first things first, let's get to this important issue about understanding freedom and where we are as a country. My guest is Professor Setulego Matebesi, who's a sociologist from the University of Free State. Prof. Matebesi, appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your wonderful listeners.
Thank you. And so, and a listenership that is connected really to the national pulse because they feel it. They feel all the things that impact the country. So it's a really good time to ask you about just that. When we then say tomorrow, so effectively now already we're there. It's Freedom Day. It's 30 years of freedom. What are the first things that comes to your mind?
Well, despite all the challenges, and I like what you said about the oxygen, because I strongly believe that we don't have yet the incredible resilience that we have as South Africans, and an absolute privilege to be a South African today, despite all the challenges. I strongly believe that freedom for me is an ability at this stage to be able to express my opinion. Although from time to time in the beginning of the this democratic dispensation, there has been voices, attempts to mute some of us in this country, but just the freedom to be able to have that ability to can express yourself in a very respectful manner, because with freedom of expression there also comes responsibilities, and be able to stay, if you've got the money, to stay wherever you want to take your kids to whichever school you like to. That for me is very fundamental, because investment in education is an investment in the future of this country.
So my point, freedom is not just the right to vote, isn't it?
No, not at all. It goes beyond that, because if that was the case, then we will go on the 29th of May, go and exercise our democratic right and then take a back seat. And this is exactly what many South Africans are trying to be doing, where they strongly believe that freedom is only coming alive a couple of months before the elections, and go and elect and exercise their democratic right and then take a back seat. That's definitely not what freedom is all about.
Now, I'm glad you agreed with me about my image of freedom providing the oxygen for us to be able to achieve to our maximum potential. Now, we're talking of 60-odd million people. So here's the big question, has South Africa, since Freedom Day, given us the freedom to be able to breathe the oxygen that allows us to maximize our lives to our fullest potential?
Well, going along that very same analogy, one thing that we should understand, it's not going to come from our leaders. I strongly believe that South Africans are expecting too much from their public representatives. Democracy has given us the power. We are the holders of this power. We are possessing power, and up until we realize the potential power, the agency, the ability to bring change, not tomorrow but today, I strongly believe that then we will be able to breathe and enjoy the oxygen, the kind of oxygen that is available in South Africa.
But, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, in doing that, you're suggesting we're expecting too much. So that means we need to do it ourselves, or are you saying we're expecting too much from political parties in government?
No, but the question is, why is there no consequent management? We often talk about that phrase, but we want consequence management being done by the very same leaders who are scratching each other's back. We can't do that. We've got an opportunity, and I will never advocate for party X or B, but citizens, South African citizens, do have an opportunity to do the right thing. And why are we forever complaining, yet we each time are being presented with an opportunity to bring about change, and yet again that opportunity has been availed on the 29th of May. And also beyond the elections, there are many platforms and structures that we can become involved, participatory governance. And that's why I say it seems as if South Africans will go and vote, and the next day they will go and burn down facilities.
But I may disagree with you on the basis that if that were the case, then we would not have any service delivery protests. If that were the case, we would actually not have civil society that is pretty robust as they are right now. We would not have the many people who get onto talk shows like this, who comment on television, who get into newspapers and make comments about things that go wrong in our country. We would not have those things. We would actually have people who'd vote in parties or a party and then simply chill with their feet up for the next 5 years. I don't think that's the case.
No. That's also not what I'm implying, because you will never get a perfect situation. But the fact of the matter is, what we're currently facing in South Africa, you've got, yes, in terms of, and I'm also a follower of the show, people are very vibrant, participating in radio shows and all that. But beyond that, we need South Africans. If you look also at the voter turnout, the question is, why do we have so many young people who are not exercising their democratic right? And why do we have so many young people who also become part of our government, just emulating what is already happening, being part of the problem? And they should dictate the terms, and the future that you want, and not become the same as what we already have. So that is the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
Why do you think that so many young people do not participate in the end or the 5-year democratic process called an election?
No, it's this whole notion. The moment if you mention politics, you will hear people say politics are dirty. Perhaps we have allowed our politics to become dirty. But we can change that narrative. So it's all this whole notion, which is commonly known. People have become so despondent in what they know and see what politicians are doing.
Is it not the flip side where, never mind some of the pronouncements of political parties, the reality is the political parties don't really want the youth of our country to get into positions of leadership in those parties, because that would mean, a massive disruption of the way things work. And I say disruption in marketing speak. Okay, that means a complete change of the way things are done, and those parties, they don't really want that.
Yes, no, definitely. I mean, if you look at the current status quo, I think it will still take a while before we see a massive change in terms of the leadership structures of all our political parties. And what we see is that politicians will always protect their interest. Why would I now allow all these young people come and take over if I've got vested interest in occupying a certain position in party X or Y?
Now, if we go, without even going to all the details, because I think the answers are obvious, and I've mentioned it at the outset, the issues of massive unemployment, the issues of inequality, the issues of poverty, the issues of racism, the issues of just an absolute denial of opportunity. Then it goes back again to that point about oxygen, that if the purpose of government was to ensure that freedom is maintained, that means the oxygen that allows 60 million people to breathe to their maximum potential is maintained, they will realize that. That's not the case right now. I mean, there are just too many examples of things going wrong, isn't it? So understandably, the person listening to us, if they are rather, frustrated, or to borrow a South African phrase, rather heartful about the reality of what we call Freedom Day, I mean, that would be understandable, wouldn't it?
Yes, but we need to debunk that much further. There are people who are fully aware of what is happening, fully aware of the challenges in terms of service delivery, inequality, and all that. And those people will still vote for party X, Y, or Z on the basis of ideological attachment, historical attachment, and a lot of other factors. So, irrespective of all the grievances and whatever happens within that party, they will still vote for.
Does that disappoint you?
And
does that disappoint you that it would give parties that fail to deliver a mandate?
No, we should never. But one thing that I will, because I'm an institutionalist, whenever we use democratic means, and not violence, then we should allow people to do that. Because what we can do is come with education to say, but go out on the 29th, go and vote. But people should also know. That's why I say, up until we realize the power that we have, and perhaps it's only then that people will realize actually they do have power, and it's up to them to bring changes.
So lastly, if the incumbent party in power is the African National Congress, and if we concur that there's so much wrong with the delivery of freedom to the majority of South Africans, what then do you say about giving the ANC a mandate going forward?
It's going to be very difficult, and I can put my head on the block. It's going to be very difficult for the opposition to try and unseat the African National Congress, irrespective of what is going to happen over the next couple of weeks. But for me, the question has always been, when is the ANC going to take heed the lessons that is emerging from the outcome of these elections? Because each election, I think people are indicating that.
Okay, but
please wake up.
But quick, yes, no. Should they be given a mandate to continue? Yes, no?
No, it's not up to me. It's just going to be very difficult to respond to that question.
Okay.
I don't think it's my role as an academic.
That's where we leave it. Perfect. Got that. Thank you for your time, Professor Setuli.
Molweni babukeli beKids Newsroom. Igama lam ngumhlonto Buhle Kelepa, izwakazi yasemampondomiseni, and we cannot wait to see you on SABC2 right here where you belong every single Monday at 4:30. See you there.
The Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Plant Health Phytosanitary Bill B14B21 on 25 April 2024 at Ngakamudiri Mulema District in Motswedi Community Hall in Motswedi, at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District in Agricultural College in Potchefstroom, at Dr. Ruth Somoti Mompati in Tosca Community Hall in Tosca, at Bojanala District in Safer Scale Community Hall in Safer Scale. All hearings start at 10.
Okay, you may want to take a real keen interest on this. Now, the South African Sports Awards recognizes and honors the very best in sport on and off the field, celebrating 30 years of freedom through sporting excellence. So select your favorite People's Choice nominee. This is where you come in, right? So A, is it Eben Etzebeth? B, Gerda Steyn? C, Sia Kolisi? D, Percy Tau? E, Kirsten Nauschafer? And then you can SMS A, B, C, D, or E to 32020. 32020. The SMSs cost R1.50. T's and C's apply. And you can visit dsac.gov.za. Catch the 17th edition of the South African Sports Awards coming up next week, Sunday, the 5th of May at 8 p.m. live on SABC Sport on the DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. And don't forget that hashtag Izinyaze Game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, we have had lots of comments about already on the issue of freedom and what that really means. And that point that I brought up, if there's no oxygen for you to exercise to the maximum potential, then the freedom is being diminished. So who needs to then fight back to regain that freedom? Let's, however, move to the issues of freedom of exploitation, in this case, mineral exploitation in the DRC. My guest is Nixon Katembo, the African Affairs commentator, also works for Channel Africa. Nixon, appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me, Ashraf.
Right. The context of us talking, I understand, is that lawyers representing the DRC have written to Apple, and I've got an Apple phone in my hand, I must just say that, to the Apple CEO Tim Cook, demanding answers on the sourcing of minerals used to manufacture the company's products. I understand there's a whole issue about legality of all of that. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that you are carrying an Apple phone of which you will be carrying perhaps a blood on your hand, particularly with the deaths that are currently happening in eastern DRC, owing to the fact that the DRC supply almost 70% of the world coltan that is now exploited in a conflict area where the war is currently raging on, and much of this going through Rwanda and other auxiliary companies entering in the Apple supply chain. Has these lawyers have been acting on behalf of the DRC government to hold Apple accountable for their mineral their mineral chain, which end up in actually in our mobile phones without ever looking into the fact of that those blood minerals and a fuel in conflict in Eastern DRC.
But what's the difference here? What I'm saying to you is, okay, you say 70% of the minerals used into the manufacture of an Apple phone emerges from the DRC. But the question is, does it get extracted and exported out of the DRC illegally without the knowledge of government or the other key decision makers within DRC, or is the process legal, and then we can discuss whether in fact they're getting enough benefit out of it? Where's the difference here?
Basically, the process is illegal, mostly in a part of the Eastern DRC where coltan is. You look at the Rubaya and the Ruchuru area, companies that have established, for example, mining establishment there, like the likes of Alpha Mine, which have some of its headquarters here in Rosebank and some in Mauritius. So those companies actually they are receiving these mines illegally from the conflict area. Then they get processed through a certification process in Rwanda, and then they exported as illegal, but actually having been obtained from the sources through illegal means.
Okay,
and that's how the entire process is happening, that's why.
Okay, so is the issue Apple themselves, or the issue DRC nationals who are transporting this out of the country as part of a big deal and doing so away from the glaring eyes of the DRC government?
Well, you have to look at the entire chain holistically, just looking at these issues of a DRC national or the government itself, or even neighboring Rwanda for that matter. That where it ends, how does it end there, and the origin, how did it originate, and those are factors that maybe the lawyers can ventilate in the courts to shed some light. But all we understand that these are illegal minerals. That they have been exploited illegally through conflict, that out of that economic war that is waged on the DRC, that millions and millions of people have been displaced, and millions are dying through this conflict, and therefore the need for accountability even on those the chain and the end users, in this case, which is Apple, that is in need of these minerals to manufacture their cell phones.
Has Apple responded?
Apple initially issued a statement saying that they have done a thorough research in 2022-2023, and they found that neither of their supply chain management is responsible for those allegations that are contained in the lawyer's petition. So I guess when the case formally get into international arbitration, those issues will get to be ventilated, and then we know how the whole entire chain process happened. But all we know for the fact that these minerals are fueling conflict to the extent of enriching some of the regional government in the Great Lakes.
Okay, finally, what happens next?
I think what happened next is to make sure that Apple dissociate itself and come clean on what is happening in the entire value chain. Two, then for those who have been fingered to be responsible to be exposed, and therefore also put in place a sort of what we call what is similar to the Kimberley process. You would recall the Kimberley process. Look at the diamond and how the value chain and the entire chain happens instead of getting blood diamonds like what was the case with the roof of Foda Isango in Sierra Leone and Liberia and so on.
Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it. Well, there you are. Very interesting. Nixon Katembo, African Affairs commentator, also does work for Channel Africa. The question right now, I have an Apple phone in my hand. Is it an Apple phone or a rotten apple? We will see how that develops as per that story, right? Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30 with Eva Shipa.
Thanks, Ashraf. In your news making headlines for this hour, the Electoral Court has provided the reasons for the dismissal of the objection to former President Jacob Zuma featuring on the Mgonto Wesizwe party candidate list. The 5-member panel made the same determination but differed in their approach. In other news, DA leader John Steenhuisen has warned South Africans not to be fooled over what he called load shedding manipulation. This comes as the country has gone 30 days without load shedding. And lastly, head of project finance, energy and infrastructure at a private law firm, CMS South Africa, the Bridget Majola, says despite efforts over the past 2 decades to address infrastructure needs, South Africa's water systems are now facing a crisis. I'll be back at the top of the hour with more news. For SFM News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
On the roads, if you're driving southern parts of Alberton today, there's been quite a big crash here. It's been with us for a while, causing heavy delays. It's on the Heidelberg Road between Vereeniging Road and the N3. So both Joburg bound and N3 bound on that section of roadway quite heavily backed up. N1 as you get out of Joburg for the weekend, backlogging through Buccleuch up as far as about the New Road exit. And the R21 has been heavy all day today, coming out of Pretoria on your way towards the airport into the roadwork, still queuing up into the construction there just by Olifantsfontein Road. Northbound slow as well with the sinkhole closure causing, the sinkhole restrictions causing delays, so busy both ways. Durban, the crash on the M4, the Ruthurst Highway going north just by Durban North. That's a queue that extends now right back into Blue Lagoon. N2 South stays heavy from Inlander Road down through Spaghetti Junction. If you're ducking out of that and using Umgena Road, you're in for a surprise. There's some roadworks on Umgena Road at Springfield Park, which is causing a pretty decent backlog as well for Durban-bound traffic. And if you're driving Cape Town, there's been a smash on the N7 South. This is Jake Scoville Drive, right in the heart of Goodwood at Voortrekker Road. That's a queue that extends back in towards the Frans Conradi Drive junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
All right, for sport, we say Telkom, but not Telkom, more than Telkom. Go ahead.
Telkom Netball League. A very good afternoon to you. Well, the Telkom Netball League is officially underway at the Ellis Park Arena, and the results of match day 1 are coming in thick and fast. Newbies, Northwest Chukuru, kick-started their season on a low with a 53-42 loss to Kingdom Stars. Mpumalanga Sunbirds claimed a 37-32 win over Kingdom Queens, while the Tornadoes beat Lilies 46-34. There's also 3 more games to be played today, and we'll definitely keep you up to date with the results as they come in. Then in football, Mamelodi Sundowns host Esperance Tunis at Loftus Stadium in the second leg of the CAF Champions League semi-final tonight. Esperance have a 1-0 lead, and now it's on the Brazilians to overturn the deficit to book their spot in the final. To top it, if Sundowns wins today, regardless of the tie's outcome, they will qualify for the Club World Cup 2025. And you're probably asking yourself, how? It's because one gives them 3 ranking points, which would be mathematically enough to guarantee a spot available for an African team. And kickoff for this game is at 8 p.m. Elsewhere, Burnley boss Vincent Kompany says that he takes no pride in a chance to add to Manchester United's problems this weekend, despite his long association with Manchester City. Kompany's side travel to Old Trafford tomorrow, hoping to boost their survival hopes by inflicting United's 9th home defeat in all competitions this season. United are languishing in 6th place, and Ten Hag's position is under scrutiny after British billionaire Jim Ratcliffe's recent arrival as co-owner. In rugby, Chris Smith will replace the suspended Johan Goosen as Bulls have named their lineup for tomorrow's United Rugby Championship encounter against the Ospreys. Huesan was suspended for 3 league games after being shown a red card in the Bulls' 27-22 loss to Munster last weekend. Now, the Bulls are currently 4th on the URC table with 4 league matches remaining before the knockout, and the kickoff for that one is at 3 p.m. Then rounding things off with our Women in Sports feature. Just yesterday, it marked the end of a 2-day workshop exclusively for female commentators. It was hosted by COSAFA and is believed to be the first of its kind on the African continent. The ladies were from Malawi, South Africa, Zambia and Zimbabwe. And some of the things that they were taken through were the technical aspects of commentary and some practical do's and don'ts. And legendary broadcaster and commentator Mark Gleason was the one that led day one. And he says that he sees female commentators growing in leaps and bounds over the years.
I think there's a very bright future for commentators per se, but particularly for female commentators. There's been a real revolution almost in the number of female voices that we hear commentating sport on television around the world. English soccer, sevens rugby, Olympic Games now, which we'll watch later in this year, we'll have a lot of female voices. So I think huge potential, and there perhaps not enough of them involved in African soccer. So what a great idea that COSAFA had to put together a workshop and to try and train up some commentators that they can use for their various women's tournaments, and who can hopefully go on and do other things as well.
Absolutely great initiative that they have there. I mean, just talking about football, I remember at the Women's World Cup, Amanda Dlamini was one of the first female commentators that they had.
And she was very good.
She was absolutely amazing. So kudos to COSAFA.
This is brilliant. Where's the name? Where's Tumi's name here? Tumi Nkapela. I mean, are you part of that commentary team?
Maybe one of these good
days.
You
but
never know.
in principle, I think it's great. And you're seeing it in many, many sports around the world, and it's becoming a very natural process. So it's not like women for women's sports. It's women and men commentating on sport together.
Listen, it's a commentator, not a man or a woman, just a commentator. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Tumi Nkapela.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
And we will buy 500 cars, and we will buy 500 more. Just to be the one who buys your car, will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da. We buy cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
RSB Pekane have a great gift for their home fans. They want to book a spot in the final, but USM Alger says not under their watch. Who will be honored as the champs of the North African Derby? This is the second leg of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup semi-final. RSB Pekane battles it out with USM Alger, live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, this Sunday, 28 April at 9 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Ahead of Freedom Day tomorrow, we've been asking about for you the essence of freedom and what that really means to you, and what is our state of relative freedom in our country. Comments, Brian saying, Ashraf, I understand the significance of Freedom Day, what we have been through as a country in its history now. The politicians have made our country look like a desert, and it's burning anger now. Voting won't change the damage our politicians are bringing towards our society. That's one thought. Let's get another opinion. Solomon in KZN. Hi, Solomon.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Right. What's your pulse rate like, Solomon?
Yeah, you see, in these 30 years, in the dispensation of democracy, there is a lot that we should appreciate and celebrate as a nation. We should remember that South Africa was a police state, balkanized on the basis of ethnicity, color, and class, a system which thrived on super exploitation of the African majority, whilst excluded and marginalized them from the dividends of the very same economy they assisted to build. We replaced an illegitimate white minority dictatorship by a democratic system. And hence, South Africans have benefited out of a number of institutions which support democracy, independent judiciary, some commissions which look at various aspects in terms of rights being upheld of the people of South Africa. It's needless to say the steps that we have taken in the field of education, field of health, infrastructure, and the social wage. So there is a lot. It's just that we are confronted with a joblessness kind of an era. And this thing makes the people to undermine and not see the value of the democratic dispensation that we have.
But here's the thought. If people are jobless, here's the thought. If people are jobless, does that mean that your freedom is being undermined?
Not in the sense. It's just that because they are confronted with joblessness, they cannot really appreciate the good and the achievements that we have made as a nation.
Thanks for that call. Got it. I'll tell you what, so my view, and I've said it just now, I think if you're jobless, then I'm not saying you don't have freedom. I'm suggesting your freedom is being undermined, because freedom is not about a vote only. It is about providing the oxygen for you to maximize your life to the fullest potential. And if you're jobless and you're unemployed and you're unemployable, well, that definitely undermines that. Let's get another call. I think is it Percy? Is it Earl? In fact, what we'll do, we'll get to our guest and we'll pick up some other calls in a moment or so. Right. My guest now talks about a very interesting issue around money. Right. Sabina Mohammed is with us, CEO of the Corporation for Deposit Insurance at the South African Reserve Bank. Sabina, welcome to the show. You're on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. So I watched yesterday with a sense of satisfaction an announcement by the Reserve Bank governor around guarantees around bank deposits. And I thought, well, maybe you can clarify and reassure the nation that actually, your money is far safer today than it ever was before. Tell me more.
Yes, so we yesterday celebrated the launch of the Corporation for Deposit Insurance, or CODI as we like to call it. So CODI is the deposit insurance scheme for South Africa, and its mandate is to protect the depositors in the unlikely event that their bank fails. So CODI, being established now, has become part of the financial safety net in South Africa, together with the Prudential Authority, the South African Reserve Bank as the Resolution Authority, and the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. So we do believe that CODI's establishment and operationalization will strengthen the financial sector safety net in South Africa further. And so if I may just talk about the mandate of CODI.
Yeah.
So CODI has the mandate to establish a deposit insurance fund, which it can then use to protect the cover deposits if the bank has failed. So if you want to know who do we cover, the qualifying depositors will be individuals and non-financial businesses, and the types of products that CODI will protect include deposit products such as savings accounts, fixed annuities, your transactional account, as well as a check account. So in a nutshell, they will be protected up to 100,000 per qualifying depositor per bank in the case that their bank fails.
So let's compare the difference. I mean, are you saying, a year ago, if I deposited 100,000 rands into a bank, and the key word is the bank fails, that means the bank collapses, right? Then I won't get my money back before.
No, I think what happened before was there was no certainty for the depositors. So each of the bank failures were handled on a case-by-case basis. In the first place, there was no specific fund allocated to protect the depositors of those banks. There was also no rules or legislative framework in place as to which depositors should be protected and as to how much, as well as which products. So this basically means there's much more certainty for the depositors if a bank were to fail, what their protection would be like.
Okay, how clearly in terms of the provisions, that provisions have to be set aside. Is it a case of being insured against the debt from the association you refer to, or is money being set aside?
Can you just repeat that question?
I was saying to be able to insulate oneself against a big payout in case of a bank failure, right? Does monies have to be set aside from your organization that you refer to, or is it simply a case of the risk is insured?
Yes, so Cody has established the deposit insurance fund for any of the banks in South Africa's failure. So if I look at the member banks, it will include cooperative banks, mutual banks, commercial banks, as well as the local branches of foreign banks. So that it's like a pot of money that's been set aside for that unlikely event should it occur. And the banks are making a contribution towards this deposit insurance fund. And we've also limited the cost on the banks by they're only paying for the amount that Cody protects their qualifying depositors for. So the money is in place at the moment. So if a bank were to fail, which is very unlikely, Cody essentially is ready to provide the necessary funding.
There's a final thing. What took it so long? I mean, it's great, but why now? Why not 10 years ago?
Well, the work actually started more than 10 years ago. After the global financial crisis, National Treasury published their Twin Peaks framework document. And as part of that, the Prudential Authority as well as the Financial Sector Conduct Authority was established. And while that was happening, the work on the deposit insurance scheme for South Africa already started. So this is not because there's any weaknesses in the system or because we think there will be more bank failures or anything like that. It's just it's taken so long. We had to do research. We had to consult with the banks as well as the public on the various features of a deposit insurance scheme because ultimately we must make sure that the protection that we offer actually is a good fit for the South African public. So if we look at the 100,000, for example, we had to do several surveys just to determine what level should this protection be at. And now we can say that at the 100,000 coverage level, 98% of the qualifying depositors would be fully covered, meaning that most South Africans have less than 100,000 rand in their bank accounts.
Yeah, sadly so. But point made.
Yeah, sad. But hopefully it will improve in future. But as part of that, we then had to develop the legislative framework, secondary legislation. So there were a lot of steps that had to be undertaken before we could get to this point. So I think just having it now is a major accomplishment for South Africa.
Got that. Thanks for your time, Sabina Mohammed, CEO of the Corporation for Deposit Insurance at the South African Reserve Bank, or better known as Cody. So there you are. You are now insured if a bank goes bust. You feel a lot more confident. Of course, you don't really want a bank to go bust, do you? Right. You have an opinion on that? You tell me. Get it off your chest. I want to hear your point. 0614 104 107. WhatsApp, voice or text. Or we take your calls. 086 000 2032. We're going to talk about former President Thabo Mbeki's pronouncements yesterday, try and understand it. Before we get to that, again, to continue the conversation about freedom in our country.
Yeah, sure. The freedom, such as, if you like, secondary freedom, such as freedom of speech, freedom of religion, yes, we enjoy them. But the basic freedoms or the primary freedom, such as to have employment, to be secure against criminality, you see, also, yes, also to have proper leaders, you see, right. Such things, those freedoms you don't have. To avoid the collapse of the infrastructure, those freedoms, unfortunately, we don't have. So we see our country, as well as the freedom itself, collapsing. Infrastructure, everything is collapsing. So there's no freedom there. Thanks.
Well,
in Kuma.
Thank you for that. I'm not going to argue with you because I think you're right. When certain infrastructure collapses and then affects service delivery and affects your right to be able to have the oxygen to breathe and to explore your fullest potential, something I've said just now, then your freedom is being compromised. I cannot argue with that. Let's get to the issue of crime and freedom.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. It's Fred Trucker coming from KZN heading to Western Cape. Mr. Ashraf, from Amapanyaza to Amajodina, crime in this country. People have given themselves freedom to be criminals. Just now in Umlas there, one of our trucks has been looted. That's the freedom that we are celebrating right now. Criminals robbing people in N4. Icon.
Well, yeah. Sorry, man, and Well, that's another reality which undermines our freedom, and you and I know that. Certainly love the way that you got that horn going. By the way, makes a nice soundbite. By the way, for the show, let's get another the issue that we spoke about, the DRC and illegal minerals being extracted from the DRC. Well, or minerals being extracted from the DRC illegally and being used allegedly by a phone that I've got, Apple. Let's get this thought.
Hi, Ashraf. Good afternoon. How are you, Mafuta? Ashraf, my heart boils to the core when I hear Nixon putting it upon that these minerals are illegally exported to foreign countries without any of the locals benefiting. My question to you and Nixon is, until when are we going to bury people because of our own minerals on this continent? And until when these leaders we have currently going to allude to the fact that our own minerals from this continent are not benefiting our own people, Ashraf?
Well, it's complex. I mean, the one thing is the benefit or the beneficiation. That means if a country sells the minerals, then the country benefits. This is a question of that it's been done illegally. That means without the country's knowledge, and then exported. That means there are some tsotsies along the way there. But either way, it's an interesting one. You have minerals. The other question is the issue of, can we actually use the minerals to manufacture like smartphones in our own countries? That, I think, is a big issue.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
Come test drive the new Ford Territory, the family SUV with a spacious interior, 5 partial leather seats for your family, and a 12.3-inch touchscreen. Get yours at launch prices from only 590,000 Rand, including an optional service plan for a limited time only. Get to your nearest Ford dealer and test drive the new Ford Territory today. T&Cs apply.
Character will be tested between the great giants of the beautiful game. RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund understand that the first prize is unreachable. However, they want to finish as high as possible. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch RB Leipzig versus Borussia Dortmund on Saturday, 27 April at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Fireside chat with the lazy Makoti after 5. Do not miss that. The ANC to appeal contempt of court ruling on cadre deployment records. That comes up shortly. But let's talk about the former president of the ANC, the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. We have firstly with us Professor Dirk Kotze, who's the Professor of Political Science at UNISA. Prof. Kotze, appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's do this. Yesterday you're aware that former President Thabo Mbeki was on the election rounds. He was, there we are, part of a whole group of people canvassing for support for his African National Congress. And amongst many things he said this.
You see, the position has been taken by the leadership, and I think they're probably right about this, is that there are certain set procedures in the constitution of the ANC as to how you expel a member. That it is necessary for the ANC itself to respect that constitution so that it does not behave in any manner, in a lawless manner, in terms of its own laws. And therefore the decisions to take him to disciplinary committee and so on, that's what's prescribed in the constitution. It's not cowardice. It's that I think that loyalty to his own constitution is important in the same way that we must also be loyal to the national constitution. So I think the position that the ANC leadership has taken on this in terms of procedure is correct.
Okay, so that's so he said that, and he also was asked by some others about the fact that a year back, less than a year, in fact, he spoke about the ANC being led by corrupt leaders, and here he's promoting the ANC. So, Prof. Kotze, let's talk first things first. His comments about another former president, Jacob Zuma, who's not resigned from the ANC, I understand, and he hasn't been expelled, but he's certainly on another party's ballot list.
Yes, that is something which is very concerning for President Mbeki. When he was not long ago here at UNISA, He spoke about it in the most sort of open way in which I've ever heard. He spoke about some other members, former colleague, person, leaders of him and others in the ANC or former persons in the ANC. He was very, very vocal about it. And this has become, I think, a major issue for him. Obviously, it is because of the history, not in the beginning, but later on, around about 2008 and later, where the two of them sort of clashed head on head within the ANC about at Polokwane. And what happened thereafter, President Mbeki had to resign as president and was removed from their positions. So I think there is definitely a very awkward history between the two of them. But I think what we are seeing now is that he is possibly the most vocal of all the top leaders in the ANC and the one that really talks about it. Others more or less keep quiet.
But significantly, if I could hear that correctly, he's almost suggesting the ANC needs to be tactical in terms of its own constitution about considering the expulsion of its former president a month before the election.
Yes, and I think that's where the difference of opinion within the ANC. I think the way in which I understand the current approach of the ANC is to say, well, we don't want to create or give ammunition for President Zuma to say, well, I'm a political victim of being expelled by the ANC. I didn't want to leave the ANC, but they expelled me. And therefore, it is about bad leadership within the ANC. They are not sympathetic towards me. They don't give me credit for my time as president in the ANC. All those type of arguments. On the other hand, I think the ANC is saying, well, he already received a lot of attention because of the court cases. We don't want to give him more attention. If it will go through a disciplinary hearing, it will take long, most possibly another Stalingrad approach that's being followed. And he will then have the opportunity to say, or the reason to say, well, there was a political strategy against me to get rid of me in the ANC. And therefore, what I said earlier on, that I'm a victim of those strategies that have been confirmed by this.
So it's a case of
the 2 points.
Yeah, so it's a case of the ANC saying, okay, there's right and there's wrong, but don't dwell on the right and wrong, dwell on doing the right thing. And it may be opportunistic right now to do the right thing regarding not dealing with former President Jacob Zuma. Now, you got about a minute to go. What then are your thoughts about former President Thabo Mbeki canvassing for the ANC, considering the pronouncements he said at UNISA, where I gather you were there in August of last year?
Yes, I think what he reached the point where he's absolutely concerned about the future of the ANC. So while in the past, I think they were still the luxury to say, I'm not going to be associated with the current problems of the ANC, he says, well, we have to put in all our weight, all our effort, just to rescue the ANC from losing the majority. So I think this is the main sort of motivation for him now to become involved in this. His relationship with President Ramaphosa has always been, since the days of the negotiations, complex, but I think he said that aside now.
Do you think he's been, he's had his arm twisted by someone within the ANC, Thabo Mbeki, that is to say, honestly, we need to survive here, we need to get 50+1, we need your help?
I couldn't hear.
I was saying, do you think that former President Thabo Mbeki has had his arm twisted to support an ANC that they cannot afford to get below 50% because they've asked him that, to say, we need your help? No, I think we've just lost Professor Dirk Kotze for the moment. But perhaps maybe you as an audience can consider that. What do you think about his position, Thabo Mbeki's, on President Zuma, former president, about, tactically we have to be strategic about things now and like 1 month before the election? And what do you think about the fact that he's now canvassing for them, meaning that they've pulled out all the top guns to ensure that the ANC cannot or shall not get below 50%? I mean, your analysis of that I certainly want to know. As always, 086 000 2032 to call in. Otherwise, tweet us or even on Facebook, hashtag The National Pulse, and voice notes 0614 104 107.
My fellow South Africans, it's time for all of us to make a choice to secure our future. Which South Africa are you? The South Africa stuck in the grip of corrupt politicians and broken failing infrastructure? Or the South Africa that hopes? The South Africa that believes? The South Africa that hasn't given up on the dream of a prosperous future? Are you the South Africa hell-bent on destroying the equality we fought for? Better South Africa you were promised in 1994, but you are still waiting for it in 2024. Don't be the South Africa that's holding us back. Be the South Africa that wants a better life for all. If you still have hope and want to build a better South Africa, come with me. I'm Love Mondo, and I'll be running as an independent candidate in the next general election.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC.
Right, we're going to talk about, do you know much about the global competitive index on the one hand and South Africa's global reputation? We'll talk about that in a moment or so, but let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Eva.
Thanks, Ashraf. Top stories for this hour. Reasons behind the electoral court dismissal revealed, and Steenhuisen warns against what he calls load shedding manipulation. Good afternoon, I'm Eva Chipa. The Electoral Court has provided the reasons for the dismissal of the objection to former President Jacob Zuma featuring on the Umkhonto weSizwe party candidate list. The IEC has meanwhile lodged an urgent and direct application to the Constitutional Court seeking clarity on the correct interpretation of Section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution, which they argued barred Zuma from appearing on the MK party list. In the judgment, the Electoral Court says Zuma was not afforded an opportunity to appeal the contempt of court sentence, which is handed down by the Constitutional Court. Zoleka Kodashe reports.
Justice Dumisani Zondi found that the sentence that was imposed on Zuma cannot be said to be a sentence which Section 47(1)(e) contemplates. The section prescribes that every citizen who is qualified to vote for the National Assembly is eligible to be a member of the Assembly, except anyone who is convicted of an offence and sentenced to more than 12 months imprisonment without the option of a fine. It adds that no one may be regarded as having been sentenced until an appeal against the conviction or sentence has been determined or until the time for an appeal has expired.
DA leader John Steenhuisen has warned South Africans not to be fooled of what he called load shedding manipulation. This comes as the country has gone 30 days without load shedding. However, the DA leader says this is only due to the looming elections on the 29th of May. Steenhuisen made these remarks on the eve of Freedom Day, where the party unveiled its economic policy that it says will create 2 million jobs in the country over the next 5 years.
And they're burning billions of rands worth of diesel just to keep the lights on, to create the impression to South Africans going into the last stretch of the election that everything was all right. But everything is not all right, because if you look at the available energy supply factor, it has not improved. And that is the real measure about how much energy is going back in the economy. So don't be fooled by the manipulators again. Don't be manipulated in this election, because they are manipulating you to think that load shedding is a thing of the past, while they're planning load shedding up to stage 16.
In other news, Head of Project Finance and Infrastructure at CMS South Africa, Bridget Majola, says despite efforts over the past 2 decades to address infrastructure needs, South Africa's water systems are now facing a crisis. For weeks, taps have been running dry across the country. Majola says there is an urgent need for increased capacity building, financial resources, and better governance practices to ensure sustainable water management in the country.
We have a situation where there's obviously been a misprioritization, I would say, of revenue that's been generated, or perhaps there hasn't been sufficient revenue being able to be collected to be able to prioritize infrastructure refurbishment and maintenance work that's been required to be done.
Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilwane has appointed Sianego attorneys to investigate the deaths of 2 Davidton Skill School learners. Spamandla Peterson and Sibusiso Sibia drowned at Rock Falls Adventure Ranch in Centurion, Pretoria during a school excursion that was not authorized by the Department of Education. The law firm has been given 7 days to conclude the investigations. Chilwane says he has confidence in the law firm.
We are confident that they'll be able to give us a report that is credible, a report that will also assist the department to really tighten and close the gaps with details and them knowing and us knowing what happened to our children will also assist us to move forward.
And lastly, Cape Town Fire and Rescue Services are battling a blaze on the mountain slopes in the Red Hill area. Strong winds are battering the city. The South African Weather Service has issued an orange alert on the Fire Danger Index for the next few days for Cape Town. The Huguenot Tunnel in Paarl has been closed to trucks earlier due to strong winds. MMC for Safety and Security JP Smith says teams are on high alert and adds they moved additional firefighting appliances, including water tankers, into high-risk areas. Recapping the top story at 4, the Electoral Court has provided the reasons for the dismissal of the objection to former President Jacob Zuma featuring on the Mkonto Wesizwe party candidate list. The IEC has meanwhile lodged an urgent and direct application to the Constitutional Court seeking clarity on the correct interpretation of Section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution, which they argued barred Zuma from appearing on the MK list. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour for SFM News. I'm Eva Chipa.
In your sports this hour, Sharks ready for Scarlet's clash, and Brazil Brazil great Marta to retire from international duty. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Just on that closure of the Huguenot Tunnel outside Cape Town on the N1, it's closed to heavy vehicles, as you heard in the news report, and that's put some real pressure onto the Toys Kloof Pass. So the section of the R101 between the Paarl side and the Toys Kloof Pass proper, if you like, that is heavily congested. Of course, all the trucks ending up using the Toys Kloof as they can't get through the tunnel. So major delays if you're a trucker, part of the haulage industry, and that side of Cape Town today. Just staying in the Cape, there's a heavy backlog of traffic on the N2 outbound. Traffic lights at Fabrique Street, the Gants Park area of Somerset West have been down today. That traffic backlog with Friday volumes heading out of Cape Town back to beyond Broadway Boulevard. Crash on Joburg's N12 eastbound near the R24 split. That's putting terrific pressure on the N3 highway towards the links into the N12 at Galuli's interchange. So north and southbound battling to get through there. Collision on the N1 south coming through Midrand at Buccleuch. That has pushed traffic back beyond Allendale Road and looking quite heavy. And if you're on Durban today, the N2 southbound still queuing between Inanda Road and Spaghetti Junction. Normally this time of day that queue eases up, but not today. It stays heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
Nali bitla ka ke bonolo mo atludi bantse mbarke Miss B morara Miss T mo atludi the Bonnie B Bonbon, and we'll be now playing Kena on Mondays at 4:30. The day has changed but the time slot hasn't. So if you're interested in news that's happening with us kids and our peers around the world, don't forget to tune in. See you there.
Mama Kitty, I heard Rand Water talking on the radio about how dangerous it is for people to encroach on their pipeline servitude.
Yes, those high-pressure Rand Water pipelines are under the ground distributing megaliters of water. When people build on top of the pipeline, Rand Water is unable to conduct maintenance on the pipeline, which has a negative impact on water provision. Pipelines can burst without warning. People could get seriously injured or worse.
Yes, people can die from a bursting pipe. That is why people need to understand that Rand Water servitude is where a Rand Water pipeline is located. If we build our houses or businesses on a Rand Water servitude, then we are encroaching on that servitude. They say if communities want to know whether they've encroached over servitudes, they should look for the Rand Water beacons.
The beacons indicate the presence of Rand Water pipelines under the ground. They're rectangular, made of concrete, are painted either white or blue, and have the Rand Water logo on them.
Let's take a walk around our area to see if there are any Rand Water beacons so that we can also tell the neighbors.
Rand Water, celebrating 120 years of existence and still finding new ways to provide clean, portable bulk water.
The smiling one achieved a big smile in their own backyard after a narrow 1-0 victory against Masandawana. Kabuyelo says they will dish out orders in Loftus to book the VIP ticket to the final. But red and yellow Tunisian gear plan to continue where they left off, to silence Rulani and his boys. This is the second leg of the Total Energies CAF Champions League semi-final. Experience the exhilaration of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC clashes with ES Tunis FC. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. This Friday, 26 April at 7:30 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love Cheer. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, keep your comments coming, keep the calls coming around what I think is so central to the sense of the National Pulse today, which is Freedom Day and the state of freedom in our country and the essence of freedom. And I'll repeat what we've been speaking about before, that freedom in terms of the right to vote, the right to express yourself is a given, the right to choose a political party of your choice is a given, by and large, the right to make choices for yourself is a given. But there are certain considerations that are fundamental to living in a free society, like the right to, in my point, to have the oxygen that provides you to fully express yourself so that you can realize your maximum potential. I think is being denied because of the many things that are wrong in the country. So the essence of freedom for you is what? And therefore, what then is the state of South Africa's freedom? Tell me, you can tell me right now, in fact, 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp in voice note or text combinations 0614 104 107, and on social media the hashtag the National Pulse, please, when you do just that. Before we get to your thoughts, let's touch on, I think, something that's so topical considering tomorrow is Freedom Day. So there's a global focus on South Africa, and that is South Africa's global reputation. So what is South Africa's global reputation? Meaning, what do the countries of the world think about our country? So Brand South Africa, they had an event this morning. I sadly was not there, should have been there. And they've put together some research, and the findings are rather interesting. Mpumi Mabuza is with us, the Brand SA's Chief Marketing Officer. Mpumi, appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Ashraf, we missed you this morning. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. And probably I'll be better if you give me some wonderful news, or I'll be disappointed if you give me some disappointing news. Go ahead and tell us. So, well, firstly, what was the research going into? What were you trying to achieve?
Well, we try and get an understanding of perceptions about the country. Reputation management is about mostly managing perceptions. And then our work, as you may know, is to just try and manage those perceptions and also bridge the gap between reality and perception. So we try and understand what the rest of the world thinks of South Africa, what they think our strengths or attributes are, and also perhaps, definitely not perhaps even, but what our challenges are from their perspectives. And we call those nation brand disablers. So this gives us a picture in terms of where we can focus our work as Brand South Africa, the organization, but also we feel it's important for the rest of the country to be aware of how the world sees us or perceives us.
Now, often, and this is a research commissioned by Brand SA, which may be very different from independent research done. Yeah. And I'm thinking about things like the Global Competitiveness Index. I mean, that would be something completely different. Why the need for your own research rather than simply analyzing what other research has been done on your country, on our country?
We actually are always keen to track and review the other research indices that are out there that focus on specific areas, like the one you've named, the competitiveness index. We also look at the corruption index specifically. However, what we are trying to do with this study, which is done by Bloom Consulting, and they specialize in nation brand management and that type of research and data analysis, we're trying to get a sense of how we're performing when you look at the science of nation brand management. So the research gives us specific information against pillars that talk to what influences a nation brand. For instance, it looks at governance issues and policies. It looks at foreign affairs. It looks at sports and natural assets of the country, education system, etc. There are a variety of elements or areas that they survey and delve into. And also, we are able through this research, especially for our work, to get an understanding of what content is being consumed about South Africa. So who is writing about South Africa, where are they writing about South Africa, and we can then also on our side be able to influence that and manage that.
Okay, so having said that, what have you come up with?
Well, we're happy to receive the results. We did the study in 2022, so this is the second leg of it. It seems our reputation has improved slightly from the last report. But specifically, I think what's interesting is that we've seen a significant improvement on exports. So the world is much more open to what the country has to offer in terms of products and services, as well as investment element has gone up. Tourism is stable. Tourism is always one of our key strengths, and we were this morning with the Chief Marketing Officer from South African Tourism, which was indicating that the latest results show that tourism numbers are going up. We're just about to reach the pre-COVID levels, which is exciting and important for us for job creation as well. Tourism has always been stable. So it's important for us to learn that and see how we can leverage that. On the other hand, the research shows us that we still have work to do when it comes to crime. Safety and crime is flagged, and I think that is our biggest weakness. And then also when it comes to governance and internal policies, that will be looking at corruption and elements. So there's an area that we need to focus on and see how we can improve it as a country. So we're doing very well. Foreign affairs matters, what we are doing. For instance, with the ICCJ case, well received globally. Our peacekeeping efforts are recognized. So the country is doing well, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done internally. So, and also before I let you speak, Ashraf, the other element for us that's really interesting is that there is a gap between those individuals that have got an experience of South Africa. They've visited the country, they've done business with South Africa, versus those that have no real experience of the country. And that's a perception gap. So the data when it comes to even safety and crime, although still low, those that have been to the country as tourists or doing business have got a different perception of that, or the responses are slightly more positive than those that have never actually set foot in the country and have no sense. They've never, even sports, they've never watched, they didn't.
Okay.
I don't know who did not.
And yet their opinions matter because, how do they come for the very first time? Now, see, in terms of the dimensions that you cover, we're talking about investment, tourism, exports, talent, and general reputation, right? So here's the thing, and I know you touched on it earlier on. So to what degree does, for example, South Africa's foreign policy, and you gave the ICJ, Palestine-Israel example, have an immediate impact on this country's reputation? Were you able to do a deep dive into that result? Because you said it is more favorable now, right?
Indeed, and I think the challenge for us here will be maybe to rather track this over time. In the 2022 report, that wasn't a specific focus area. It's a new dimension that they've added, and they are assessing it amongst many other countries. But when they did dive into it and try and understand what is it about South Africa's foreign policy that stands out, it's definitely our stance on Israel and Gaza, and what we've done on the ICCJ. Also, what came out specifically is our peacekeeping efforts on the continent particularly, and even some respondents, not to a lesser degree than the Israel matter, our stance on Ukraine and Russia conflict as well. So those things are quite well known, and people were able to respond on those.
Isn't the weakness that of the surveys that it really depends on which countries South Africa is being surveyed? So again, going back to the Israel issue, if you surveyed somebody in the USA, you may, or even in Israel proper, for example, you'd get a very different result from surveying somebody from a Middle Eastern country, for example.
Well, if I can just give you the list of countries that it covered. We have respondents from the US, Canada as well, Europe, Germany, France, Japan even, and the UAE. So I think it's quite a diverse group. There are about close to 10,000 respondents on it online. And the fact that we don't have Israel on this list, but we definitely do have the US. We have key European countries that have also responded, including the UK as well.
Now, you mentioned crime as an issue, and it's probably been an issue for every year for the last 25 odd years of the 30 years of democracy we have, right? When you get that information, I mean, for me, it's like an obvious thing they're going to come back to. What do you do with it? Because, I mean, you're the marketing arm of South Africa as a country, but are you able to then influence that in government? Because I don't see any changes around the crime issue.
Well, we take this information, as much as we take it to the public, we also take it internally to the policymakers within governments. Currently, government and private sector have forged a partnership to look at key issues that are concerning the country, and you may be aware of that. That's energy, transport, logistics, but as well as crime and corruption. So it is a priority for the government, and to the extent that they've highlighted it and sought the support from private sector to try and intervene in that space. So we don't sit with the information. It's not that useful for us. We can't, as we joked about it this morning, we're not going to be arresting people as Brand South Africa, but it's important information to share. And then if I have to add, Ashraf, there's an example that was given, for instance, in terms of, for instance, incidents that happen to tourists that happen in other countries, in Brazil, in Mexico, for instance. But there's a different focus, unfortunately, or attention on South Africa when these incidences happen. So we are keen to learn from those countries. How do we then manage the narrative around that? There's no excuse for crime towards South Africans or foreign visitors. However, if Mexico can still be high up on the tourist agenda, and yet there's very, very heavy risk associated with that country, we need to find out on us, in terms when we do our job, how we can improve.
Absolutely. Just quick one, and we got like 15 seconds. The issue of innovation came up, I know, at a Brand SA event that I spoke about at about two years ago, right? Did that come up in the survey, the importance of innovation as a major driver of South Africa? And you got about 15 seconds to answer it.
Not a big feature, but not this time around, but we know that it is, and maybe it's one of the weaknesses. It doesn't really, the survey doesn't go into it that deeply.
Leave it there. That they don't know what we know. There we are.
Exactly.
Impumi Mabuza, Brand SA's Chief Marketing Officer.
After a 0-0 draw in Cairo, action continues in Kumasi between Dreams FC and Zamalek SC. The Ghanaian outfit want to show their visitors why they are known as Still Believe. They believe they will triumph, but the Royal Club insists they will graduate to the final. This is the second leg of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup semi-final. Catch Dreams FC versus Zamalek Sporting Club live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Sunday, 28 April at 6 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
What do you make of that, South Africa's global reputation? Any comments on how we are perceived as a country globally? You tell me, 086 000 2032. Talk to me about it, or WhatsApp 0614 104 107. We certainly have opinions about Thabo Mbeki 2 days in a row, yesterday as well as today, and here's another one about his comments and the fact that he's campaigning, in fact, for the ANC now.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Mac in Durban. Ashraf, very interesting. Thabo Mbeki wasting his time, obviously, campaigning for the ANC. What's a bit confusing is Thabo Mbeki, in a few months ago, I mean, he said he's never going to campaign for the ANC because it consists of these corrupt individuals. That was last year, 2023. Fast forward today, he's campaigning for the ANC. It just shows the inconsistency from members of the ANC. The ANC is such a confused party. I think they are clutching at straws. They're losing big time. You want to see them sitting in opposition benches. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if the ANC is a confused party. The bigger question you should be asking is why is Thabo Mbeki canvassing for the ANC? What has happened to get him to do that? What's the backstory around that? I don't have an answer. I'm not a paid-up member of any political party, so I don't know, okay? But if you know, then you must tell us. What about minerals, DRC minerals in Rwanda? Here's an opinion too.
Hi, Ashraf. This is very sad. If I heard clearly, Nixon says that these minerals are mined from the area that is, where the conflict is, and then moved to Rwanda, and from Rwanda, then get exported legally. But how are they imported into Rwanda? Because somehow, this unlawful activity gets legitimized somewhere. It's Sipho in Kokstad. I was just wondering. But it looks like it's a sad day for the whole of Africa. It's just our politics and,
Well, there you are. Thanks for that. Don't just wonder. I think we're all wondering. And there's so much about global politics and geopolitics and big business that we don't quite understand. Now, earlier on, as part of the commemorating of Freedom Day coming up tomorrow, we had a chat. I had a chat with Professor Sethulehu Matebesi, who's a sociologist from the University of Free State, just about that, the essence of freedom in our country. I'll take calls on that in a moment, but we thought we'd play a clip of some important points that he said.
Well, despite all the challenges, and I like what you said about the oxygen, because I strongly believe that we don't have yet the incredible resilience that we have as South Africans, and an absolute privilege to be a South African today, despite all the challenges. I strongly believe that freedom for me is an ability at this stage to be able to express my opinion. Although from time to time in the beginning of the this democratic dispensation, there has been voices, attempts to mute some of us in this country, but just the freedom to be able to have that ability to can express yourself in a very respectful manner, because with freedom of expression there also comes responsibilities, and be able to stay, if you've got the money, to stay wherever you want to take your kids to whichever school you like to. That for me is very fundamental, because investment in education is an investment in the future of this country.
And that's the voice of Prof. Matebesi. Now, of course, I've argued slightly differently. I'm suggesting that it can't just be about the right to vote. It can't just be about the freedom to express yourself. It can't just be about the freedom to live where you want. It has to be about the freedom of exercise, of being able to realize your fullest potential. So one thing is having the money to live where you want, but not enough people in South Africa has the money to live where they want. And that, for me, is honestly a denial of our freedom if we look at the majority of people. But you give me your thoughts, and I love the fact that on this National Pulse, on the SAFM platform, we speak to people from around the country. Butana in Rosebank, hi.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Thank you.
The rampant crime, the whistleblowers killed with impunity. We can't enjoy this right of freedom. Security of us, even in our home, we are not secure. The economy has been destroyed. The rampant thieving stop us to enjoy this democracy that we are longing for so hard. Only politicians, because they've got bodyguards, they are enjoying it. But individuals, some of us, we are living in fear.
Okay, I got that, I think, and that has been repeated by many other people as well. Thanks for that call, Butana. Let's get to Paul in Bloemfontein. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Ashraf.
Go ahead.
I share the sentiments as per the prof that you just spoken. I don't know really how to define freedom. Because we, for instance, we come from an awkward situation, the era that we lived at. You know, to be unemployed, that's not the deprivation of your freedom. There are so many things that an individual can do, even if he's not employed. For instance, now, if at the end of the day we are taking our freedom and compare it with the unemployment, the world, the whole world, people are not employed. Technology is taking most of the jobs. I've been looking around. At one stage, they were scraping off a tar road to come and put a new tar road on. It was a person that was driving this tractor that is actually taking off the tar road. It was even loading it on top of a truck in front. They were moving side by side. Two people, two drivers, were doing the job that was done by so many people at the end of the day at one stage. But because of technology, things have changed. Bricklaying, there are so many changes in that as well.
Yeah, but I mean that applies around the world. You know, it's not just a South African issue.
That is around the world. Yeah. Now they say South Africa is the country with a lot of unemployment. These other political parties are playing games with the people, because whichever party that is going to win the election, if it wins the election, we are going to take time before this whole thing changes.
Okay, got
because
that.
It is a world problem that we are facing. It is not because of me. But now I enjoy my freedom, because I never enjoyed my freedom. But now, since 1994, even when I sleep,
Okay,
I'm
Paul,
free.
let's leave it at that. Even when you sleep, you're free, you say.
I'm free.
Okay.
Why worry?
Free.
Yeah, because if you keep on, you know, when Ashraf, let me just to add. You know the concept of a square wheeled wagon.
Yeah, tell us very quickly. You got 15 seconds. You don't have free time here. Yeah.
On top of the wagon, there are round wheels, but these guys are pushing the square wheeled wagon.
Okay.
Telling you that people are struggling with a problem, but they've got the solutions on themselves.
All right.
They can decide what to do, but they don't want to think.
Okay.
They will keep on pushing this four-wheeled wagon instead of taking off the tires on top of the wagon.
Okay.
And put them on and push the tire. That is our downfall.
All right, Paul, you
think
free,
forward.
but you don't have free time unlimited on air, and neither do I, unfortunately.
That's right.
Okay, got that. But at least Paul is free to sleep very well at night. Let's get the news headlines now. It's just gone for 30 years, Eva.
Thanks, Ashraf. Top stories for this hour. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has raised concerns over the constant mushrooming of informal settlements across the Free State. This after he witnessed hundreds of shacks that are erected at Botshabelo's entrance on the N8. In other news, the Electoral Court has provided the reasons for the dismissal of the objection to former President Jacob Zuma featuring on the Umkhonto weSizwe party candidate list. The IEC has meanwhile lodged an urgent and direct application to the Constitutional Court seeking clarity on the correct interpretation of Section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution, which they argued barred Zuma from appearing on the MK party list. And lastly, a UN official has said that huge amounts of rubble, including unexploded ammunition left by Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza, could take 14 years to remove. Greg House will be back at the top of the hour with a full news bulletin. For SFM News, good afternoon. I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The rain around Joburg this afternoon. Drive carefully if it's wet where you are. Also some chaos on the Ekurhuleni side. There's a big crash blocking multiple lanes. It's a truck that's jackknifed N3 south between Van Buren and Heldenace. That traffic a disaster. It's all the way back heavily, right back to Marlborough Drive. You're just going to sit today. Also problems for motorists coming off that N3 and wanting to get through Galilees onto the N12. A crash on the side of the road before the R24. That's all causing a backlog coming north from Germiston on the N3. A bit of on-looking pressure on the N12 and R24 routes into Galilee's passing that. And of course, those two routes that are jammed up from Ekurhuleni, N12 and R24 routes to Galilee's are going to stay struggling to get into that N3 South queue. So it's a real mess around Galilee's interchange. Multiple routes, multiple directions. Further out, a crash on the N12 at Rietfontein. That's the R21. Traffic going to Boksburg and Benoni parking back as far as Craft Road. At this stage, collision on the M1 North at Buerta Avenue. Big delays getting up from John Foster Drive. Keep in mind it's Friday volumes as well, so it's all very heavy there. Leaving Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown at Ashburton, queues from Market Road, and a heads up if you're getting out of Cape Town for the weekend. I've got a lot of traffic to get through Somerset West. No lights. N2 at Fabrique Street in the Gans Park area. That traffic parking back halfway between Somerset West and sort of Thurgrove, Macassar territory. That's big. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, big stories. It was netball earlier now.
All things rugby. Two-time World Cup winner Lukhanyo Am will lead a Springbok-laden Sharks lineup against Scarlets in Wales tonight. And after a week's break, head coach John Plumtree has brought back many of his experienced players for the Vodacom URC clash, looking for their leadership and ability to deliver a winning performance.
I mean, obviously Bongi's got to come back into the starting team. Yeah, we're not far away. I mean, it's there's a couple of selection things. I'm interested in Kerben Grobler playing a little bit of time at 7. I think he's got the skill set for a loose forward. It's just with a couple of other areas of his game he can be good enough to be a loose forward, but certainly he's mobile enough. He's an excellent ball winner. And playing on the loose forwards, he's got skill sets, I reckon. It's just whether in a short space of time, whether he could push for a position in the loose forward department. But the rest, I think, are all pretty settled.
Well, then moving on to football action, Banyana coach Dr. Desiree Ellis says that her special recognition from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology is very important for the growth of women in sport in South Africa. Ellis was conferred with an honorary doctorate in sports management by the Cape Town Educational Institution CPUT yesterday. Ellis believes that her accolade reflects the struggles and triumphs of powerful women in sports fraternity and dedicates it to all those who have paved the way for women to climb the ladder in male-dominated industries.
Sport, I think this reflects the collective efforts and struggles and triumphs of countless individuals and so many people who have paved the way for women in sport. I think it is huge for the growth of women in sport in the country, because when we look back at our journey in women's football, we're struck by the challenges we have overcome and the progress we have achieved, and I think that happens in women in sport in general. But we're also excited about how far women's football has been recognized far beyond the borders, and it goes beyond the goals we've scored or the trophies we've won, because it has a profound impact on society, and that is what women in sport does. We know it's about shattering barriers and defying stereotypes, and most importantly, igniting the dreams of future generations of athletes. So it's encouraging to be able to dream without any limits.
And she has literally shattered those barriers. And this is what I call freedom, according to me, is being able to realize your dreams without any barriers or being stopped. So I say kudos to her. And she's literally leading the way for others.
Well, we speak the same language, because I've made the point. The ability to be able to fully realize your maximum potential, if that's what you choose. And if it's being prevented, then there's an incomplete freedom in certain sectors of society. So she's an example, but it's not enough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's never enough. Elsewhere, Brazil legend Marta says that she will retire from international football this year. The 38-year-old striker is Brazil's all-time record goal scorer in international football. Marta could make her 6th appearance at an Olympic Games if she's selected for Brazil's squad this summer in Paris. She won Olympic silver at Athens 2004, Beijing 2008, losing to the United United States on both occasions. Marta is the all-time leading goal scorer in World Cups, men's and women's, scoring 17 times in 23 appearances across 6 editions of the tournament. And then in athletics, American sprinter Christian Coleman believes that Usain Bolt's 100 meters record of 9.58 seconds that has stood for 15 years is within reach, and said that there are several athletes fast enough to break it. Christian Miller, a 17-year-old from the US, ran 9.93, the fastest time in the world this year, at a high school meet in Florida last weekend. And Coleman, who's a 5-time world champion, who has a 100-meter personal best of 9.76 set in 2019, takes on US rival Fred Curley, who is a silver medalist in the 100-meter at the Tokyo Olympics for the first time this outdoor season at the Shanghai Diamond League meet tomorrow. Finally, in the business of sport, something for those who are into Formula One, we take a look at the top 5 highest paid F1 drivers. And at number 5, Fernando Alonso from Aston Martin, along with George Russell, who drives for Mercedes, are tied, and they earn $388 million per year. Then at number 4, Lando Norris, who drives for McLaren, $375 million. At number 3, Charles Leclerc from Ferrari, 638 million rand. Number 2 is Lewis Hamilton, who drives for Mercedes, 844 million rand. And at number 1, it's Max Verstappen from Red Bull. He earns just over 1 billion rand annually.
Okay. And the Uber drivers? No. Okay.
With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Dumin Khabele.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.6 FM in Tshwane.
The Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Plant Health Phytosanitary Bill B14B21 on 25 April 2024 at Ngakamudiri Mulema District in Motswedi Community Hall in Motswedi, at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District in Agricultural College in Potchefstroom, at Dr. Ruth Somotsi Mompati in Tosca Community Hall in Tosca, at Bojanala District in Safer Scale Community Hall in Safer Scale. All hearings start at 10.
The Smiling One achieved a big smile in their own backyard after a narrow 1-0 victory against Masandawana. Kabuyelo says they will dish out orders in Loftus to book the VIP ticket to the final. But Red and Yellow Tunisian gear plan to continue where they left off, to silence Rulani and his boys. This is the second leg of the Total Energies CAF Champions League semi-final. Experience the exhilaration of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC clashes with ES Tunis FC. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. This Friday, 26 April at 7:30 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Loved You. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Right, weekday nights on S3 are about to get lit, and here's the reason why. BBC Primetime will give you access to a hand-picked selection of the BBC Studios award-winning dramas, documentaries and factual entertainment with titles such as Luther, Critical Cheaters, Top Gear, Live at the Apollo Louis Theroux, Forbidden America, and more. So you simply don't want to miss out. You can tune into S3 from the 1st of May, so that's next week, right? From 9 p.m. until 11 p.m. to channel the very best of British entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, let's get to the money issues now with Paswani Mpatlele, Senior Portfolio Manager at Markway Fund Managers. Good chatting to you as always. We're going to start with what? Local and global markets, right?
Yeah, Ashraf, afternoon, and to all your listeners, happy Friday, guys. We're looking into the local development. We're looking at, we got more data that confirm that U.S. price pressures are still there. Today, we saw the core PCE number, which is inflation number that the Fed continues to look at. It was up 0.3 in the month of March, matching expectation, indicating that the U.S. Fed won't be in a big rush to be cutting interest rates. This saw the dollar still well supported on a trend level. Meanwhile, Japanese yen weekend passed over the 156 level. It breached it for the first time since 1990 as the BOJ held interest rates unchanged. Bond yields eased from highs as buyers came into the market as they had appetite. Equities got a relief rally, especially considering that we're going into a weekend where there's no geopolitical tensions that are in the headlines. And on company front, the fourth biggest stock on the JSE, Anglo America, they rejected the buyout offer from PHP, saying that it's undervaluing in terms of the offer, and they would offer shareholders a much better value on their own. Even the Minister of Mineral and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, signaled a rejection on the deal. Looking at that, with that said, the US markets traded higher. Nasdaq was up 1.9%, S&P 1%, Dow 0.5%. In Europe, the DAX and CAC were up 1%. FTSE was up 0.7%. Locally here, as we close out the week, we'll be booking about 2% gains, and this thanks to further gains from today, up 1.5%, as our financials were up 2.2%, industrials up 1.5%, resources up 0.7%. Meanwhile, in the commodity space, gold got a bid up 0.6% at $2,348 an ounce. Platinum was down 0.2% at $923 an ounce. Oil got a bid higher, up 1.6% to $89.40 a barrel. The rand was relatively stronger against major currencies, about 1%. Rand against the dollar is 18.77. Rand against the euro 20.06. Rand against the pound 23.44.
Okay. Anything else you want to touch on, Paswani, or is that it?
Well, I can say that as media houses, you guys must continue to simplify the noise going into the election, and because this will allow an opportunity of less chaos and frustration during the process of voting.
Okay, got that. That's like an instruction from you. Thank you very much. Paswani and Madlene, we'll chat again, next week sometime, I'm sure about that, from Markway Fund managers. Now, by the way, talking about the election, we have a regular election update feature that comes up called Election Watch. We'll chat to the team coming up just now from Defend Our Democracy, and they play a critical role. So we'll chat to them, not quite now, pretty shortly. But you also know, every Friday after 5 o'clock, we sort of move into a different mode, okay? And it's called the Fireside Chat mode. So just imagine exactly what we'll be talking about. But today, my guest is Mokgao Sheshweni. You know who she is? Well, in fact, maybe you don't know, but we'll find out. In fact, so good chatting to you, and we're going to preview what we're going to be talking about, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So how's it? Are you good?
I'm great, thanks.
Right.
How are you?
So I mentioned your one part of your name, but your second part of your name is now stuck with you for the rest of your life.
It is. My mother sometimes calls me that as well.
Does she really call you the lazy Makoti?
She does.
All right, listen, we've asked you to pick out a topic that you drive, in fact, to say, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about after 5?
So after 5, we're going to be chatting about the one thing, this is for all the lazy makotis, the one thing that you hate doing. This is house chores. The one thing that you're unapologetic about. You hate doing it. You're not planning to change it.
Okay, but is it only for the lazy makotis? I mean, clearly it can apply to males who are also lazy, like me,
It definitely can apply to anyone. It could be laundry, it could be cooking, cleaning, whatever it is.
Okay, I need to work out what I'm really lazy about and make some points. To me, you have an opinion on this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh my goodness, guys. Ironing. You'll never catch me alive ironing clothes. I do not like that chore. I do it when I have to. But ironing, guys, I'm not even embarrassed.
Okay, for me, we have a domestic worker that does most of the washing part of it, but ever so often when she's not around, like especially with the holidays, then to hang the washing on the washing line, no, that one is like my worst. Look how they're laughing.
But it's understandable.
No, I can't do that, but I do it. I can't do it, but I do it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about that, right?
What's hers? I'd love to hear from her. What's yours?
No, but she's going to tell us later.
Oh,
that's the whole plan, right? I mean, okay.
So
she's
we'll
going to tell us later. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't. So that's the lazy Makoti setting it all up for what we all are so lazy about, whether you're a Makoti or you're not, okay, male or female. What are you lazy about? And you're unashamed about it. Like you just, that's me, okay? I can't do it. Finish and clear, right? I mean, Tumi's already said ironing is one of the things on here, okay? So what do you think as a listener from wherever you may be in the country, what are you so lazy about that you just, no, man, you just admit it, like, that's it, I cannot do that. Now, how about you WhatsApp right away, or, well, you can't call in now, but you can certainly WhatsApp, so we can pick up those comments and play them just after 5. 0614 104 107 in text or in voice note form. You can tweet as well, you know that, as well as on Facebook. Use the hashtag The National Pulse when you're tagging SAFM Radio and when you tag me as well. Okay, let's get another quick thought on the big issue tomorrow. Freedom. David, hi.
Hi, Ashraf, and welcome back to radio.
Much appreciated. There you are. Not lazy about it. I'm here. There we are.
I couldn't agree more about hanging washing because maybe I'm old and my back gets sore, but I tell you what, by the end of hanging the washing, I'm duped. I'm really gone. But what I wanted to talk about is I really agree with your prof who started the very program out at 3 o'clock about freedom.
Yeah.
Because freedom comes with a lot of angles to it, and it comes with responsibilities too. And I think freedom can be realized if people discover the simple fact that the economy is the function of everything that we produce. You just talked to got the economic news and all of that, and we hear that we're not growing. America's only growing by 1.6%. What is the problem? The problem is that we've got a whole lot of unproductive people. You've got to ask everybody without a job who says they don't have a job, what have you made today? You are free to make what you want. That's the freedom you have now.
But I don't think, I'm going to disagree. I don't think you're free to make what you want. There are people who are denied from being free, and that's my argument, that there's a systemic denial of people to be able to fully realize their potential, even if they want to.
There is nothing stopping you from getting hold of a tire and making some flip-flops, making shoes out of tires. There is nothing to stop you. If you want to be productive, whether it's a product or a service, you can do it. If you want to help old people, go to the nearest old age home and go and help them. If you want to help about security, start a neighborhood watch. Do neighborhood patrols. Okay. All of these things require us as citizens to participate and not to pretend that we can leave everything up to government. Government is not going to do the stuff for us.
Well, I agree with you about that.
We've got to take an active hand in creating the South Africa that we want. And I see and hear too many people sitting back waiting for the government to provide. We've become a nation of people who just sit around waiting for largesse coming from other people, and the country's not going to grow like
David,
that.
let's leave it at that. I agree with some parts, not other parts, but thanks for the comment. But here's my broader thought. Outside of government, I think we have to concede that there are people who have relative privilege. I'm actually going to include myself in this. We have relative privilege. Besides what happened in the apartheid era, there's relative privilege. But if we think that the majority of South Africans have the relative privilege to simply say, today I'm going to make lemonade and sell it outside and make money, they don't have that. We don't really know what poverty is. And to give you a very middle-class point here, if you are living in Langa and if you want to become a lawyer and you say, well, I want to get the advice of a lawyer in my family, in my street, in my community, at the community hall, to give me some legal advice on the road that I need to take to become this advocate, you tell me how many people you will find versus someone living in Edenvale in Johannesburg. And I can tell you now, there's a vast difference between two. And that's the type of thing I'm talking about, where therefore freedom is relative, because in some cases, the oxygen to the freedom has been cut off. That's my point.
Nna lebitso la ka ke Bonolo Moahlodi Bantswang ba re ke Miss B Morara Miss T Moahlodi the Bonnie B Bonbon, and we'll be now playing Kena on Mondays at 4:30. The day has changed but the time slot hasn't. So if you're interested in news that's happening with us kids and our peers around the world, don't forget to tune in. See you there.
Character will be tested between the great giants of the beautiful game. RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund understand that the first prize is unreachable. However, they want to finish as high as possible. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch RB Leipzig versus Borussia Dortmund on Saturday, 27 April at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM.
Prime time all day long.
The lazy Makoti will talk about being the lazy person after 5 o'clock. You can send us your comments, by the way. Before we get to defend our democracy, Rohan putting an interesting point saying, Ashraf, I'm disappointed in you. And he then relates to the fact that regarding the Brand SA survey, it's not countries, but the sample demographics. Well, you know, Rohan, you're partly right and you're partly wrong. The point is, maybe it doesn't come through in the conversation in the short time we have. But countries, in terms of the survey that Brand SA puts out, they actually target the demographics of certain countries that has a relationship with South Africa. So, for example, if they have no relationship with Vietnam, really speaking, at this point in time, if they've only got 10 countries to survey, they're not going to go to Vietnam. They're going to look at countries that already has a relationship with South Africa in terms of two-way relationship and tourism. So, in fact, they get to demographics, they get to people, but they still, so they never survey a country, but they survey the people within a country, and those country surveys of the people within the countries do change depending on who those countries are and how those countries perceive us, both from a domestic and a foreign relationships point of view. That's hopefully you get that, Rohan, but I get your point as well too. Okay, let's get the point of the elections now with the Election Watch feature we have every day around this time with Andries Sibagnoni, who's the spokesperson for Defend Our Democracy. Andries, you're live on the National Pulse. Good chatting to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right now, we got just over a month to go. You have a role as Defend Our Democracy, and you have a specific focus and appeal to NGOs and civil society. What is that?
Yes, we have just been made aware, or we are aware that South African elections have created so much appetite for international election observers missions like your EU, AU, and SADC and other organizations coming from North America. So we are just making an appeal to South Africans to say we cannot be spectators of the game that we can play. Hence, we are urging and mobilizing other civil societies and NGOs to come and join this time so that South Africans can observe elections collectively. Because we know that these organizations, their focus is only on the hotspots and the major cities. But now we are saying to people, come and be an observer, election observer in your respective community.
What does it take to become an election observer? Can I become an election observer?
You have to be an eligible voter in South Africa. You must be South African. You must be registered with the IEC as a voter. Therefore, you must be of a certain age. And we're also going to be vetted by both the IEC and Defend Our Democracy, because we don't want people who are politically active. So we are pursuing people who are going to be neutral so that they are trusted in their respective communities.
So nobody can come to you for the meeting, even for the interview with an ANC, DA, Rise Mzansi, and MK T-shirt that they're wearing. I mean, they're going to be thrown out. I get that, right? What then would the role of this observer be on? And is it on election day only, or before or after too?
Yeah, no, it's going to the role of the election observer is going to be on the election day, starting from the morning when the voting stations are opening. We are going to make sure that our observers, together with the app that we have created, they make sure they report if the polling stations are open on time, the ballot boxes are empty and filled, and there is no intimidation of the voters on the day. They are going to be there until the closure of the station by 9 o'clock, if everything is going to be successful. And they also involve in the counting and the announcement of the elections.
So will they be then, therefore, I mean, you've sort of half answered, they won't just be outside the polling booth, they would actually be in that room, in the halls where the voting takes place, right?
Yes, they will be outside. What we are trying to do per shift, Ashraf, is to have two people. One might be inside and one might be also outside, just to observe, because with our app, you will be able, using a smartphone, to take a picture and send it to our center so that we collate all the information, and then if there's any intimidation or any security concern, we immediately alert the IEC, because we are registered and accredited with IEC. But beyond that, it's also going to help us collate our information so that we produce an informed report of what happened, even in the isolated areas of the country.
And the IEC, I mean, where would they be when these observations take place? I mean, versus defend of our democracy?
Yeah, the IEC presiding officers are always inside the voting station together with the party agents. So we will be in the midst of that group.
Okay.
But our role is different because we are independent. We have been formed to observe so that we satisfy ourselves and the South African community about what is really happening in our voting station.
Now, there's a deadline for registration for these observers, right? 1st of May. So how do they get about, rushing to you and at least applying?
Yes, the response has been good. Up to so far, we've got almost 1,000 people across the country, and even the other civil society movement have also joined us. We are happy with the outcome. However, we are appealing for more hands because we really want our presence to be felt on the ground.
Okay, we got 30 seconds to go. What's your take on? I mean, every South African election we've had so far has been free and fair. There has been perceptions, even 2 days ago, I think, where pronouncements come through that the IEC is going to be a mess here. This is not going to be free and fair. What do you take of South Africa's relative free and fair elections?
Ashraf, we don't want to fall into that trap of wanting to discredit IEC. IEC so far has done good. It has given South Africans six free and fair and credible elections. So we would not want to insinuate that the IEC will not cope this time. If you would remember, 1994 was as big as this. Therefore, we think IEC with time they've gained some experience. They had some shortfalls there and there, but I think with time they know what they are doing. I think let's wait. You cannot just discredit IEC before even the elections are held.
Having said that, their role is critical, and so is the role of an organization, your organization, called Defend Our Democracy. And it says just that. You, as part of the audience nationwide, so in tune with the national pulse, would you like to defend our democracy? Well, you know exactly what you need to be doing. Andries Sibanyoni, thanks for your time. Much appreciated.
You're welcome, Ashraf. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity.
Much appreciated. Anytime. Right, let's get to the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Eva.
Concern over spread of informal settlements in years to remove rubble in Gaza. Good day to you. Begin with election news. The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has raised concern over the constant mushrooming of informal settlements across the Free State. This after he witnessed hundreds of shacks erected close to the N8 highway. During his campaign trail in Botshabelo and Bloemfontein, he mentioned that the lack of housing is a concern.
I was not pleased with what I saw, to be quite honest. The spread of the informal settlement is just galloping in a way that it needs to be halted. And the best way to halt it is to focus more and more on infrastructure development. That means building houses, building facilities such as schools and clinics to cater for those people who have already taken the self-help option into their hands, because they need accommodation and we therefore need to provide for them.
The Electoral Court has provided the reasons for the dismissal of the objection to former President Jacob Zuma featuring on the MK party candidate list. Meanwhile, the IEC's lodged an urgent and direct application to the ConCourt seeking clarity on the correct interpretation of a section of the Constitution, which they argue bars Zuma from appearing on the MK party list. In the judgment, the Electoral Court says Zuma wasn't afforded an opportunity to appeal the contempt of court sentence handed down by the Constitutional Court. So Lekka Kodashe reports on the reasons penned by the specialist court.
Justice Dumisani Zondi found that the sentence that was imposed on Zuma cannot be said to be a sentence which Section 471E contemplates. The section prescribes that every citizen who is qualified to vote for the National Assembly is eligible to be a member of the Assembly, except anyone who is convicted of an offence and sentenced to more than 12 months imprisonment without the option of a fine. It adds that no one may be regarded as having been sentenced until an appeal against the conviction or sentence has been determined or until the time for an appeal has expired.
The case against 8 Nigerian nationals charged with public violence has been postponed by the Kimberley Magistrates Court in the Northern Cape to next week for a formal bail hearing. The state says it needs more time to verify the documentation of the suspects. They were arrested after chaos erupted when one of them was resisting arrest after being caught allegedly with drugs. A large group then attacked the police and damaged their vehicles and a police station. The NPA's Mochelefa Senekwitsane.
The matter was postponed to today for bail information. That will assist the state to make a determination on this matter going forward, because there are still information that is outstanding regarding the accused.
Cape Town Fire and Rescue Services are battling a blaze on the mountain slopes in the Red Hill area. Strong winds are battering the city. The Weather Service has issued an orange alert on the Fire Danger Index for the next few days for Cape Town. The Huguenot Tunnel in Paarl was closed to trucks earlier due to strong winds. A UN official says the huge amount of rubble, including unexploded ammunition left by Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza, could take many years to remove. The BBC's Sebastian Usher has more.
Across Gaza, much of the enclave has been reduced to rubble. Many of the Palestinians returning to the southern city of Khan Yunis this month have found little or no trace of their homes. Now, a senior official at the UN Mine Action Service, Per Lodhammer, has underlined just how daunting and dangerous the cleanup could be. He said that some 37 million tons of debris will need to be cleared away. His estimate is that it would take 100 trucks around 14 years to remove it all. And within the rubble, he says there's an unknown but possibly vast quantity of unexploded ordnance posing an even greater risk.
Top story: the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has raised concern over the constant mushrooming of informal settlements across the Free State. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Sundowns keeper Ronan Williams not faced by Esperance slender lead, and Telkom Netball League gets underway today. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good afternoon. This one is well worth avoiding. A truck is jackknifed on Joburg's N3 South between Van Buren and Heldenace. Most of the lanes are closed. It looks like just one on the right and one on the left to squeeze through, but the middle lane's all completely blocked off, and it's a big queue, a very heavy queue that squeezed all the way back through beyond Marlborough Drive at Limbro Park. Behind that, the N12 and R24 routes. The closer you get in, coming from Ekurhuleni to links onto that N3 South at Giluli's, the heavier it gets. It'd just be worth staying away from Giluli's and any route that takes you through it towards Germiston this afternoon. Big traffic on the N1 as well around Pretoria from sort of John Foster territory all the way to a crash now up by Stormful Road. So got some big Friday volumes jamming heavily around Pretoria today. Stationary truck out of Pietermaritzburg towards Durban at Ashburton. That's a big queue that extends right back towards the Market Road exit. And Cape Town, if you're just joining us, a reminder of heavy traffic out through Somerset West today. No traffic lights at Gans Park. That's the Fabrique Street junction on the N2. The outbound side pushes back beyond the Broadway Boulevard exit. And quite heavy into Mitchell's Plain today. Traffic on the R300 queuing through Delft towards the N2. And then you stay in that queue right through to problems getting off at Stock Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
The University Registrar and Secretary to Convocation, Dr. Joel Baloy, cordially invites all members of the University of Venda Convocation to attend the AGM on Saturday, 11 May 2024 in Polokwane, Merupa Hotel at 10:30. The AGM will consider the Vice-Chancellor State of Campus Report, the President of Convocation Report, and amendments to the Constitution of the Convocation. To RSVP and confirm attendance, please visit www.univen.ac.za/announcements or contact Mr. Mashuda Ramarebo on 060-906-1902.
Lindelani ladies are on a massive search for 3 points, but TS Galaxy ladies say they will travel back from eThekwini with a song of jubilance. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the queens of the beautiful game, Lindelani Ladies FC versus TS Galaxy Ladies FC, on Sunday 28 April at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
And as you would know, every Friday, just after the news, considering we talk about everything that affects the national pulse, I can't think of something that affects the national pulse more than being lazy right now. Some may complain about everybody else being lazy. But in fact, my guest as part of this fireside chat feature is, in fact, the lazy Makoti. Which one do you know her better as? Mokhao Sheshwene, this professional cook who's this award-winning author who's delivered a cookbook with this fancy title called The Lazy Makoti, or do you know her just outside of that title? But either way, good of you to join us, and we're going to spend about, I think, 45 minutes or so, anyway, up to 6 o'clock, talking about all things lazy.
All things lazy.
Now, let me ask you this. You had a choice of choosing 4 or 5 different topics. It is up to you, right? Why did you choose a topic that wants us, females and males, to confirm certain things that we are just downright lazy about and we just unashamedly admit it? Why do you choose that topic?
Well, as many of you may know, I started a business called the Lazy Makoti, and the rationale behind this business was teaching people how to cook. So people who didn't previously know how to cook, specifically how to cook traditional South African meals. But the one thing I'd have happen all the time is a fiancé coming, buying a voucher for his fiancé, trying to get them to learn how to cook. This is someone that they've dated for years and years and years, and they've always been okay with the fact that they can't cook. Now, all of a sudden, they'd like them to be able to cook.
So it touched a nerve.
It really does touch a nerve. And some of those ladies are like, no, this is me. This is me. I don't cook. This is the one thing that I don't do. Unashamed about it. And yeah, he's just going to have to love me this way.
And I mean, is it true that, the book, The Lazy Makoti, in fact, was a confession from yourself as well? Because you fall into the same category of like being lazy to cook, or what?
No, actually, how the business happened, it was inspired by a friend of mine who asked me to first give her the cooking lessons.
Right.
And she would also say, she was due to get married. I don't want my in-laws to call me the lazy Makoti just because I can't cook. And that's how it kind of happened.
Isn't it amazing? Okay, now we're not exactly talking about cooking, just so that people know that. But I'm not saying we won't talk about cooking.
Yeah.
Perhaps just give us the pitch again. What are we going to be talking about today?
So today we are talking the one thing, house chores that you just don't do. You've accepted that this is not my thing. I just don't cook, or I just don't iron, or I just don't clean, whatever it is. And I'm unashamed about it. I'm just not going to do it. It's the one thing you refuse to do.
You just admit, right?
Yeah.
So, amongst us, we've had Tumi's already, our sports anchor said she can't, or she just hates ironing, right?
Yeah.
I've already said that I do not like to hang the washing, right? I'm fine with starting the washing machines, and the dustbin's also fine.
The easy part.
The washing part, the hanging the washing is a nuisance, and bringing it down.
Yeah.
I should admit as well that I also, because someone else said the same thing, I hate washing cars. So that was a long time ago, and that I strategically decided, for me to spend 2 hours to wash a car, I pay to get it washed. I can do something far more productive for me. But that's me, right? Now, what about you?
I too have a confession.
Please go ahead.
We're all kind of in the same boat. It has to do with laundry. I hate any and everything associated with laundry. Getting it washed, sorting it, ironing it, hanging it, everything that's got to do with laundry, I'd rather someone else does it.
Is that your number one?
Yeah. It really is. I'd rather be in the kitchen.
But you'd wear the clothing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what about you as the audience? You have a thought on well, not a thought. Of course you have. What is it about you that you are so lazy about that, it's obvious. Your whole family knows about it. It's like ridiculous. Maybe even opening the door when the bell rings or something like that. Whatever it is, that you're just unashamed about admitting it. And if that's the case, tell me, and you can call in right away. 086 000 2032 to voice note or text. You can do that too. 0614 104 107. What is it? In fact, let me extend that. So to pick up on that point of the lazy makoti, the daughter-in-law. So, to the males, are you in that situation where your wife? Now we're not going to get into trouble with this. Your wife, so the makoti, is so lazy, and what is it that she's lazy about? That she's been very clear about. The laundry is a given, but I mean, let me flip it around. Even for the females, in addressing the males here, what is it that your partner, your spouse, it could even be your son or your brother, whoever, that they're so lazy? It is just embarrassingly so that they are so lazy. But I want you to tell me their story, okay? If you want to be anonymous, that's also fine. Like, in voting, your vote is a secret. But either way, your stories are a secret. You can certainly tell us. You can tell us right away about that, okay? Right. In fact, just to tell you so, and just to show you, there's a couple of people responding, and it seems to be clothes is the issue. Folding clothes, no. Says Khonsi Fulela, that's one. There's another... Ashraf from Bonga in Katlehong. I'm very challenged by house cleaning, but everything else is a no-brainer to me, like doing washing manually. The washing machine is available, okay? Sure. Ironing, cooking, and gardening. Thanks. So Bonga's okay with everything else, but the house cleaning part is a big issue. And I think there's a couple of callers we'll pick up as well. So, in your experience, okay, so let's go back to you and your laundry, right? How have you overcome this nuisance of having to deal with the laundry, even though it just irritates you and you're so lazy about it?
I believe in outsourcing. If you can outsource it, just do it. Whether it's taking it to the laundry or having someone come in and do it, I'd rather outsource it. Like I said, I'll be in the kitchen making something amazing, but don't call me when it's time to do the laundry.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's why. I mean, by the way, many may know, we celebrated Eid a few days ago, just after Ramadan, and it's amazing how things have changed now. Mm-hmm. That before you have all these fancy plates, right? And now, even as a family, it's like, no, you get fancy paper plates, disposable paper plates, but they're fancy. They look nicer than the plates that you would have in your own kitchen or whatever, and because it's disposable. You know why? Nobody wants to wash it. Nobody wants to even push it in the dishwasher. Nobody wants to deal with it. So there's a market for that.
That is such a great idea. Yeah. Fancy plates that nobody has to wash. Yeah. I love that.
You throw it in disposable, but they're really good. Okay, let's get another call, because people wanting to talk about, they want to get it off their chest. It's like absolute confession time about just how lazy they are. We got V in Cape Town. Hi, V.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Good to connect with you. Right. Give me your lazy story.
Everything domestic, I suppose. That's the answer. Would testify to this.
Everything
domestic, yeah. Be it washing dishes, cooking, the laundry, just about all of it.
And how do you overcome your everything? Because it seems like it's now a common thing, with just about every one of us, right? Why is it not an election party issue? But anyway, how do you overcome that problem? V?
I invest in people that can assist me all around those things. The
words people use, oh my goodness. I mean, we've had the lazy Makoti saying she outsources. You say, I invest in people.
We create employment.
Amazing stuff. Okay. Any advice you want to give her in the investing in people?
Listen, I believe in investing in people. We're creating employment. We're adding to the economy. So I support that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, there should be a lazy party. Let's see if a lazy party wins an election next time around. Good chatting to you. Thanks for the call. All right? Good fun. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, certainly from the partners, what about you telling us about your partners? What are they lazy at? And you're just so irritated about that.
Let's not cause trouble on a Friday.
Oh, okay. Maybe we should change the topic. Well, let's get some voice notes too, right?
Good afternoon, guys. Ashraf and your guest there. I hate washing dishes. When I'm home, I don't do that. It's only when I'm outside alone. Then I don't have a choice. washing dishes, taking off washing from the washing line. I don't have a problem to do the washing, but the problem is to take it off and the ironing.
You sound just like me. I mean, what's the difference?
But taking it off takes like 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think for me, putting it on is a pain. Taking it off, hanging it in the first place is finding the pegs and getting them matched up and make sure there's not too much wind. No, man. Like, really, you can't wait to get done. But there's more, right? Yeah, let me get another.
I am so lazy to make boiled milk tea.
No, man.
Tea.
He's lazy to make boiled milk tea.
That takes even shorter.
No, man. I'm disappointed in you, man. I just love boiled milk coffee. In fact, I make it all the time, right? No, man.
Yeah, that's real lazy.
I hope you don't get someone say I'm lazy to get out of bed. I don't want to hear that story. But anyway, let's hear another.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf, and to lazy Makoti, Naki lazy Mkwenyane. You see, this thing of cooking, I bought Meal, I think, 2 weeks ago. I still have it. I haven't opened it. I'm lazy to cook. I used to do cross-border to the DRC. I couldn't cook. I had to eat, bread and tin beef. I had the thing of cooking. No, not for me. Not for me. Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, there we are. Cross-border to the DRC. I mean, he's not lazy to travel thousands of kilometers, but certainly lazy to do that as well. Okay, further thoughts, further comments. Let's hear it, and perhaps if you've got some like really unique stories. Now you make it. You make the pitch to them.
Yeah.
Announce it. Yeah. What? Tell us.
So basically, we're looking for the one thing that you are unashamed about. Everybody who knows you knows that this one thing you're just not going to do. No matter what, there isn't enough money in the world that we could offer you to do this one chore.
Yeah, there we are. What is that? You tell us right away. Preferably take your calls 086, because we're having fun on a Friday afternoon. It is a fireside chat. 086 000 2032. And then voice notes or text 0614 104 107. You can also tweet, by the way, on the Twitter or X platform. In fact, you can tag me, Ashraf Garda, tag the Lazy Makoti, you'll find it, tag SFM Radio, and use the hashtag The National Pulse. But whatever it is, tell us what you're lazy about, tell us what your spouse or your partner's lazy about, and maybe is there a family trait that your family is known for that with other families? Like, I mean, I know sometimes people say this family always comes late, so okay, maybe that's technically not lazy, but I suppose it is lazy in a way.
It
is. You just can't get done.
That is my pet peeve. You know what? We do need late people to explain to us once and for all. What happens? Do you not have a watch? Does it not work? What happens that you're always late?
How do they get their times so wrong so often? Paul from Mangaung will take your call after this.
Any person aggrieved by any political advertisement or political election broadcast that is broadcast by SAFM may lodge a complaint within 5 days from broadcast with the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. To lodge your complaint, please contact ICASA's Compliance Department via telephone number on 012 568 3233. That's 012 568 3233. Or email broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. That's broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. Alternatively, complaintsccc@icasa.org.za. That's complaintsccc@icasa.org.za.
The Smiling One achieved a big smile in their own backyard after a narrow 1-0 victory against Masandawana. Kabuyelo says they will dish out orders in Loftus to book the VIP ticket to the final. But Red and Yellow Tunisian gear plan to continue where they left off, to silence Rulani and his boys. This is the second leg of the Total Energies CAF Champions League semi-final. Experience the exhilaration of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC clashes with ES Tunis FC. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. This Friday, 26 April at 7:30 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Loved You. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
I'm chatting to the lazy, not so lazy Makoti, but not about foods. We certainly talk about all things lazy and getting you to confess about what is it that you are just so ridiculously, unashamedly lazy about, and everybody knows it. The whole family knows about it. And then, tell us what it is. But also, your partner, your spouse, if you want to tell us about them, as long as you're okay with them telling us about you. Either way, we're just having fun on this fireside chat on a Friday afternoon. Paul from Mangaung, hello.
Yes, Ashraf, yeah.
Okay, the lazy Paul, go ahead. What are you lazy about?
Actually, this one is very active, Paul. It's not lazy.
Okay.
Yeah, myself, I can do the coffee.
Yeah.
I can do the cleaning. I can do the ironing. Actually, I iron myself. I'm very strict on ironing. I iron myself.
No creases?
No, those stories of asking somebody. My wife, she tried. I said, leave it. I will do it myself.
The
lazy people, let me tell you, the lazy people, if you want to.
But wait, before we go to the lazy people, I want to know about them in a minute. Yeah. So you're saying you're not lazy at all? I mean, no, man, that can't be. Is there nothing about you that's lazy?
Myself, I'm not lazy at all, because I can even ask my children to lift up their feet. I mop the floor.
Like your family.
Sure.
Huh?
We need you to appear before the TRC.
I do have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I stand up, I make my coffee. They can even ask themselves, can I have a cup of coffee? I do a cup of coffee for them.
Okay. No laziness. Why are you not so lazy? I mean, what is it about you that has developed your personality and characteristics to make you not so lazy? I mean, has there been a discipline that was put in I don't know, were you in the army? Were you somewhere? What was it?
My mom, she was very strict about deadness. I started to wash my socks and my aunt when I was still a baby. My wife, she don't wash my underwear. We have a washing machine. She don't wash my underwear in a washing machine. Socks is I wash myself.
Okay.
And
this has stayed with you now. And and the rest of your family? If you have your siblings, if your children, how big are they? I mean, are they lazy or are they not lazy?
Oh, they are lazy. If you want to see a lazy person, just go and pee on his car or her car. It's full of papers, bottles, and all those things. Everything is on the floor.
But now, wait, that's your who? That's your?
It's the lazy people, like my cousin. My cousin does that. Yeah.
How come you didn't sort them out, man?
You see, if you try to train them, still it's like you are blackmailing them. Lazy people, they believe so. They say, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take it to the car wash. It's clean today. Tomorrow it's dead again.
Oh, okay. You want to add to that?
What about your kids? How come you didn't train your kids to be just like you?
No, my kids, I try to train them that when you wake up, before you do anything, you make your bed. After that, you go and wash. You make yourself lookable. It doesn't matter what you wear. But first of all, you must wash yourself, brush your teeth. You understand?
And they do that?
Yeah, they do that, but they take time to adopt. You understand what I'm saying? But it's a matter of keep on reminding them, did you wash yourself? Did you wash your mouth? Yeah, if he or she is doing hairstyle, did you check yourself on the mirror? Immediately when I say, did you look at yourself in the mirror? They know that they didn't do something that is nice for them.
What about your wife or your partner? What about that person?
No, sometimes I distance myself because of these rights, and you control me, so I just keep quiet.
Which means your influence is not absolute, right?
No, it's not 100%.
You can sort yourself out, but you can't fix others up.
Yeah, but my kids, I don't do mistakes.
And besides, you mentioned your cousins, right? What's the one thing about other people that are lazy that just, you can't take it, man? Like you just can't take it.
You see, like if I see, every trousers with the pleats, it needs a line. Somebody who's wearing a trousers without line, why have a pleat? I just feel like it's me. Feel like I can undress him and say, let me help you iron, and then you wear.
We should all send our trousers to you to iron.
No problem.
Yeah, you can do the whole world's, man. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks for that call. Thank you. There you are. Interesting call. So I was telling you, you want to add to that?
No, I was saying, you know what else is interesting? The things that people do to get out of that chore that they hate.
Right.
I have a cousin who hates cooking, and she will always do like crazy things, like oversalt the dish, so that you never ever ask her ever.
Okay. Yeah.
It's interesting the things people will do to get out of that chore that they hate.
Okay. Well, the next call you'll take it. You're not lazy to do that, right?
No, I'm not.
Just checking up as well. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, this just struck me now because I'd forgotten about it. That I'm lazy to drive long distances. I tend to fall asleep after an hour and a half of driving. My eyes get sleepy. My wife's got to keep me awake, number one. So anything beyond an hour and a half or so, I'm like,
it's too much for you.
So no, really, like Midrand's far. Pretoria, I mean, Pretoria is very far, long distance. Beyond that, it's a problem.
That is so typical
I don't know if you want to call it
people.
But is that lazy or is that something else?
It is lazy. Pretoria is just here.
I know it is.
I make the trip to Polokwane like all the time. So
okay.
Yeah.
Polokwane is like another world for me. I would go by. In fact, I've been to Polokwane by plane, just to tell you that. When they opened up the airport, that fancy airport at the time of the World Cup, remember that?
I can't believe that. That's like a 40-minute flight.
I know. I went by plane. No, I went for work. Just so you know, I had to go in and come back very, very quickly. But I mean, clearly those things have been done. Let's see if we have another. In fact, we've got a series of voice notes that. Let me see if I can pick that up. And really, is there something that's absolutely unusual? And the fact that you are lazy in certain things, then how does the family cope? So I have to say, let me get to those voice notes that we. Yeah, there's this. Yeah, let me pick up that. Here's one.
Good evening, everyone. It's Dorothy from Durban. Washing pots. I can't wash pots. I just can't. I'll wash anything else but a pot. No, I can't. Thank you. Have a lovely evening, and thanks for a good show.
Oh yeah. Washing everything else but a pot.
That's a no. Yeah,
Okay,
a cousin of mine will shove them in the oven, and then the next day they'll be waiting for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, with the lazy Makoti. My name is Happy. I am not ashamed of cleaning. I'm not ashamed of this. I don't like shining pots. You can make me cook the whole day, but not shining pots. I rather call someone else to shine them, then I start cooking. Thank you.
That is such a business. I mean, everybody outsources. You the first one that outsources.
Looks like there's a business idea there.
Everybody.
Washing pots.
Yeah, just pot washer. There's another.
Hi guys, I'm lazy to eat. I don't know why. I don't like food. I eat once a day.
No, hot man, no man. We can't even get there. Let's rather get the news headlines. It's 5:30 with Greg.
For a quick look, the NFP says it's taken action against all its members at leadership level for their failure to manage the financial books of the party in a proper manner. The ANC president, Cyril Ramaphosa, has raised concern over the constant mushrooming of informal settlements across the Free State. And messaging platform WhatsApp has threatened to leave India if it's forced to break its message encryption. More on that story and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, a glimmer of hope for N3 South motorists this afternoon, moving down through Joburg towards Germiston. The jackknife truck around the Heldness interchange, all lanes are open at that particular scene, but the traffic is going to take a while to normalise. It's a very heavy backlog from as far back as Lynbro Park, and it just, there's more traffic piling in this time of day into the back of that queue, so it's just going to stay heavy for a while. N12 and R24, it's into Galuli's coming in from Ekurhuleni to try and get into that N3 South, are heavily backed as well. A bit of rain across the province of Gauteng, so drive carefully. It's having a big impact on the N12 down to Protea Glen. It's having a big impact through the roadworks on the N1 South down towards the Grasmere Plaza area as well. Pretoria looking fairly heavy on the N1 going north. You've got Friday volumes driving very slow towards a crash scene before Storhamful Road. The back of the queue there, back around Boerta Avenue. Leaving Durban towards Pietermaritzburg, queues out towards Paradise Valley. That's a stationary vehicle in the roadworks, so big backlogs just after Spaghetti Junction, and a long queue leaving Pietermaritzburg down to Durban with a stationary truck just around the Ashburton exit. That queue back beyond Market Road. Cape Town, a broken down taxi, N2 and Nelson Mandela Boulevard out of town, blocking the right lane just before Hospital Bend. The pressure on as you leave the city centre. And the N2 still slow through Somerset West. That's no traffic lights working in the Gants Park area at Fabrique Street Junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, the lazy to me. Go ahead.
All right, let's start things off with football this hour. Mamelodi Sundowns goalkeeper Ronald Williams says that he's not fazed by the 1-0 lead. Esperance are carrying into the second leg of the CAF Champions League semi-final tonight. The Brazilians returned from Tunisia last weekend under pressure to now win at home to progress to the final of the continental tournament. Williams, who is also the Bafana captain, says that the squad thrives in matches of this magnitude with so much at stake.
We enjoy playing these games. It brings the best out of us. As you even saw last week, going away to Tunisia and giving the performance that we did away from home, speaks volumes of what we are building at the club. So tomorrow we'll have, that extra energy behind us with the Masandawana, the fans getting behind us, and obviously the Mashata, spirit, hopefully that can energize us as well and push us. We're looking forward to it. We're excited. And we know what we need to do, in order to be in the final.
Just to note that Sundowns, if they do win today, regardless of the tie's outcome, they will qualify for the Club World Cup 2025. And if you're asking yourself how, it's because a win gives them 3 ranking points, which would be mathematically enough to guarantee a spot available for an African team. And kick-off for this game is at 8 p.m. I hope it doesn't rain today, and we're wishing them nothing but the best. Elsewhere, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola says that he's worried about his side's football schedule, but says that it's a dream come true to fight for the Premier League title again.
Well, we play at home against Madrid, so we go in bed earlier than we were going to arrive today. So the people say, for example, we're playing Crystal Palace 12:30, so we arrive at 5-6 in the afternoon. To go to Madrid, it was really good because we could do proper dinner and rest and go. And arrive at 2-3 is not a good because the players after they have 1 or 2 more hours to sleep and have to wake up for recovery. And the bed and rest is one of the most important things, to recover, and we don't have time. So, and after tomorrow, say hi, go home, and day after arrive in the training center, take the luggage and go to Nottingham. So that's why it's what it is. So we are used to. So in the past, when we went to travel or the finals, where it was the same like that, and yeah, let's go.
You see, he's lazy to play football. Too much football. It's lazy.
In netball, the Telkom Netball League is officially underway at the Ellis Park Arena, and the results of match day 1 are coming in thick and fast. Newbies Northwest Shikudu kick-started their season on a low with a 53-42 loss to Kingdom Stars. Mpumalanga Sunbirds claimed a 37-32 win over Kingdom Queens, while Tornadoes beat Lilies 46-34, and Boabs lost 53-40 to the Jaguars. In rugby, Chris Smith will replace the suspended Johan Goosen as the Bulls have named their lineup for tomorrow's United Rugby Championship encounter against the Ospreys. Goosen was suspended for the 3 league games after being shown a red card in the Bulls' 27-22 loss to Munster last weekend. The Bulls are currently 4th on the URC table with 4 league matches remaining before the knockouts, and kickoff is at 3 p.m. And also, 2-time World Cup winner Lukhanyo Am will lead a Springbok laden Sharks lineup against Scarlets in Wales tonight. After a week's break, head coach John Plumtree has brought back many of his experienced players for the Vodacom URC clash, looking for their leadership and ability to deliver a winning performance.
I mean, obviously Bongi's got to come back into the starting team. We're not far away. I mean, that's there's a couple of selection things. I'm interested in Kerben Grobler playing a little bit of time at 7. I think he's got the skill set for a loose forward. It's just whether a couple of other areas of his game he can be good enough to be a loose forward, but certainly he's mobile enough He's an excellent ball winner. And playing on the loose forwards, he's got skill sets, I reckon. It's just whether in a short space of time, whether he could push for a position in the loose forward department. But the rest, I think, are all pretty settled.
Well, we're wishing all our South African teams who are playing in the URC this weekend well. Yeah.
That's it?
That's it from my side.
You working?
I am working this weekend doing women's football, the Hollywood Bet Super League on SABC 1, I think, if not SABC 3.
What time? You want the whole country to watch?
Okay, so the first game starts at 11 and the second game starts around 3.
Okay, and do not be lazy. Watch to me talk about women's football.
Please.
Do not.
Well,
okay, have a great weekend.
Yeah, that's it. It's a wrap from my side. For SAFM Sport, ke nna Tumi Nkgapele, Modimo ke yo.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
The Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Electricity Regulation Bill B23B23 on 24 April 2024 at Ngaka Mudiri Molayama District in Madibuho Community Hall in Madibuho, at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District in Matlosane Auditorium Hall, at Dr. Ruth Somuti Mompati in Utlwanang Community Hall in Christiana, at Bojanala District in Letabile Community Hall in Letabile. All hearings start at 10.
The Smiling One achieved a big smile in their own backyard after a narrow 1-0 victory against Masandawana. Kabuyelo says they will dish out orders in Loftus to book the VIP ticket to the final. But Red and Yellow Tunisian gear plan to continue where they left off, to silence Rulani and his boys. This is the second leg of the Total Energies CAF Champions League semi-final. Experience the exhilaration of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC clashes with ES Tunis FC. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. This Friday, 26 April at 7:30 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Loved You. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, it's the Money Web Market Update. Jimmy, I've got the lazy Makoti with me, and she's made a career out of being lazy, okay? So here's my business question to you. What are you lazy at?
Sometimes investments can get lazy, Ashraf. Sometimes you need to sit back and just look at your portfolio and just not do anything, right? It's a strange feeling, but especially with the way the markets do tend to perform, you don't always want to be rushing to get into things, and that was one of those days today where it would have actually paid off to be lazy. Markets had quite an interesting day. The all share was up today. Financial stocks were up, leading the bunch. They were up about 2.2%. And resources were up about 0.3%. And if you had been holding onto the positions, if you remember earlier in the week, the markets, the financial stocks weren't doing so well. And being lazy would have actually paid off on a Friday. So equity markets doing well, international equity markets also doing well. The U.S. markets, particularly the NASDAQ, up almost a full 2%, the S&P 500 almost a full percent. Alphabet reported their Q1, the quarterly earnings numbers, and that surprised the markets to the upside. That stock price was up almost 11%. Nvidia was up as well off the back of the news that Alphabet would be increasing their capital expenditure, which means in all likelihood they might be investing in more chips, AI chips, and that would benefit companies like Nvidia. So the equity market's having a good day. We also got some data out of the United States in the form of their personal consumption expenditure data. That is a preferred measure by the US Fed when they look at inflation, because it really speaks to how much the U.S. Consumers are spending, more so than where the inflation is entrenched in other products. So it measures specifically the pressure on their spend, and that surprised to the upside. And you'd think that would give the dollar a bit of weakness, but the dollar actually had quite a bit of strength, but not against the rand. The rand seems to be fighting that off, and it looks to be closing out the week at 18 rand 82, which is a far cry from the 19 rand 20 we started the week at, but it's a good thing for us. It's gaining almost a 4% against the US dollar there. The euro is Also, about 1.3% weaker against the rand, so the rand's at 20 rand and 11 cents there. It's at 23 rand and 46 cents against the British pound, also gaining 1.3% there. The gold price, $2,334 an ounce, about 0.1% up from where it was. The Brent crude price, $89.37 a barrel, 0.4% stronger there. Not such a good number for us, especially if we look at the fact that next week, Wednesday, we are in all likelihood going to see a petrol price increase, which we don't want. But the platinum price for now looking positive, sitting at $922 an ounce there, up about 1%. Palladium down about almost 2%, below $1,000 again, back at $962 an ounce. And if we look at the price of Bitcoin, that is $63,482, and the price of Ethereum is around $3,107. Both cryptos down marginally for the day. We'll see going into the weekend. They do tend to trade over the weekend if that does change. But for now, it looks as though we're wrapping up the week on a positive note on the JSE, on a positive note on the Rand, and it's not the time to be complaining about that.
Okay, that's it. So you have a good weekend. No show tonight, right? I know that. Friday.
Yeah, no show tonight. We'll be back next week.
Bottom line, the markets are lazy on a Friday. I've certainly got that. Jimmy, great chatting to you. We'll do it again on Monday with the MoneyWeb market update. What we do have is Mokhao Shishweni. She's a cook. She's known just like, I just love to handle the lazy Makoti. And we're talking about lazy people, lazy us, and what we're lazy about. But you know what? I'm not going to do this pitch. I want you to tell us again why are we talking about this and encourage people to share their lazy stories.
Yeah, we're looking for you to share all your stories about all those chores that you're unapologetically lazy about. This is the one thing that you're just not going to do. Nobody's ever going to get you to wash the dishes or cook or do some ironing. That's the one thing. This is the one place where you draw the line. Mm-hmm. Even when you meet a new person, you let them know, listen, I just don't cook, so don't even expect it. It's not happening.
Are you saying like in relationships, if people are, I mean, you know, how soon before they own up about that sort of thing?
You know what? I think very early on, maybe not first date, but very early on, there's actually a thing called weaponized incompetence, which is when someone does a lot to get out of the chore. So think when you try to send someone to the shops and they always come back with the wrong thing, so that you never ask ever again.
So just repeat, weaponizing?
It's called weaponized incompetence.
Oh, weaponized.
Yeah, men do it really well.
So explain that in English now. What does that mean in
So weaponized incompetence is when your partner, most times your husband, will try to get out of a chore, and the one time that you ask them, they'll do it so badly that you never even think to ask.
They'll do it deliberately.
Deliberately. Weaponized incompetence. They do it deliberately so that you never ever ask again.
I have to admit this, and this is a confession.
Yeah.
I'm not lazy about this, but when it comes to things that you would consider manly, and that's another whole conversation, which I don't really want to do.
Yeah.
But like, you know, changing of plugs, you know, fixing up sort of electrical connections along the way, finding out some serious problems in the home, then I always defer to the point to say, let's get the most competent person to do it. And the most competent is my wife, Jamila.
Really?
She's got a gift. She genuinely has a knack for fixing all these small issues. So sometimes you'll get a plumber coming home because there's a problem, right?
Yeah.
And you know, people look at you like, "Ish, man, now we just said," and she'll say, "Well, I think we should try that." And it works. So I mean, we call her MacGyver. That should, for those who watch that old TV show from her, she's got it. So in that case, I'm not lazy about it, but I would tell her, honestly, give it to the most competent person to do. And you, in that case, you really are the most competent. And it's not weaponized incompetence. I would just
and how soon in the relationship did you fess up?
No, she was. I mean, since I met her, I just knew that she had that gift. I mean, it was obvious, you know.
Amazing.
And the same applies to cars. If there's an engine problem, I think you should look at that, you know. She did. I mean, today I had a problem with my lights and car lights, and she suggested I had to speak to the mechanic on the phone, and she suggested it shouldn't be this. He needs to go to the source, and he then suggested that he's going to get some new globes, and she said that's the problem. And then he called me back. He said, I've spoken to somebody else, and they said no, we need to go and have this thing tested, which is exactly what my wife said. So I'm just saying, you get people like that in certain fields. They're just brilliant. They're just brilliant at that. But anyway, having said that about the weaponized or weaponized incompetence, oh, that's scary. There's voice notes that I want to play. Let me get them.
Hey Ashraf, this is Ngapse Tsipala. You know, I can do the washing. I don't mind doing laundry. I don't mind also doing dishes, washing them. I've got a problem with the folding of clothes to the wardrobe and also packing the dishes in the cupboard. I don't know what's happening with me. I really got a problem on that. Even the clothes that maybe I was wearing during the day at work, the ones that I can repeat, I can wear them again, like your jacket and the likes. Now I don't take them to the wardrobe. I realize sometimes after some days that I've placed them somewhere, not in the wardrobe where they're supposed to be, and now I'll find maybe 2 or 3 of them there. So I'm lazy of doing that. I don't know why it was. I think that is the easiest when you compare it with the washing or with the laundry.
The laundry again, but he's got a problem with packing his. Do you have a problem with that, packing your stuff in your cupboards?
No. Something that takes like literally 1 minute, put it on a hanger in the wardrobe. But it's funny that, someone finds...
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with that because in fact, I need to have my clothes packed away.
Yeah.
And in combinations that I understand. So, but he's got a problem with that. How do you survive that? I mean, who's packing for him then in that case?
Maybe he has someone doing it.
Sure. No. Let's move on to another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and our guest there. Malasela here in Mpumalanga, but originally from Limpopo. Ashraf, I'm practically lazy to do most of the things. Washing the dishes, doing my laundry, the usual. But then I have to do those because I have to, understand. But then the one thing that I never do, I hate with all my passion, but I know how to do it, and if I do it, it's gonna be perfect. It's washing a car. Washing my car, I always take it to the car wash.
I want you to tell me the story, okay? If you want to be anonymous, that's also fine. Well, the car wash you mentioned, yeah. The car wash, I agree with you about outsourcing it, yeah.
But did you hear? He said, I know that if I do it, it's going to be perfect.
It'll be perfect.
I'm just imagining one of those people that take the car to the car wash and then complain.
Yeah.
Because he knows if he had done it, it would have been perfect.
And here's that problem. And this applies to people in other serious work as well.
Yeah.
That when you want to tackle a project, you delay because it's not perfect, and you delay like a business case or because it's not perfect, and you end up never ever doing it because you're waiting for the perfection. So perfection is a problem as well.
It is.
Yeah. Let's get another voice note.
Afternoon, Asha. This is Magdalene from Bloom. Afternoon, the lazy Makoti. You know what? I'm so lazy to reach the funeral on time. I am lazy to can reach the funeral on time, definitely. I like to reach the funeral as it goes to the graveyard. Because the people like to talk lies about the deceased. Sometimes they don't even know the deceased, but they will talk lies at the pulpit or at the front there or at the stage. Magdalene from Bloom, thank you.
Hey, Magdalene made my day, man.
That's a new one. That's a different one.
So Magdalene is deliberately late for a funeral.
Yeah.
But do you agree with the story? Her motivation, I thought she's lazy, but she's not lazy. She's strategic about it.
Clearly, she has a very good reason. But yeah, I'm always early for everything, so I really can't relate.
Oh, you're late for a funeral. Deliberately, they talk nonsense about the people.
Okay. Lies.
In fact, here's another. Hello, if gardening is part of the chores, then I guess it's gardening to me because I always fight with my girlfriend by letting the yard get too much grass from, I think it's Soyama, I think it is, right? And I can do washing, cleaning the house, and cooking. One thing I truly hate is grocery shopping. Terrence. Okay, I'm fine with grocery shopping, but I must say, my wife has to send me pictures.
That is weaponized incompetence.
No, because I'm dumb. I don't know.
No.
Then I'll choose the stuff. She'll send me the pictures via WhatsApp and say, buy the Joko tea. It's that one there. Then I got it.
The Joko tea that you drink every day. Now you don't know it when
I
you get
actually
inside
don't
the
drink
shop.
that one. I drink the other one. So if she wants that one.
Attention to all music lovers. The highly anticipated Metro FM Music Awards are finally here.
Yo, y'all ready?
Purchase your tickets to gain access to the awards ceremony and the live concert happening on the 27th of April 2024 at Mbombela Stadium, Mpumalanga.
Yo, we about to have some fun in here.
You can now secure your tickets from 300 Rand at www.computicket.co.za.
Yeah, man, this is a big night.
With a star-studded lineup of DJs and live performances, don't miss your chance to be part of this unforgettable celebration of talent and music excellence.
Come on, Mbombela, come through. Let's do this.
Hashtag MMA24, Black to the Future. Metro FM, it's where you want to be.
After a 0-0 draw in Cairo, action continues in Kumasi between Dreams FC and Zamalek SC. The Ghanaian outfit want to show their visitors why they are known as Still Believe. They believe they will triumph, but the Royal Club insists they will graduate to the final. This is the second leg of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup semi-final. Catch Dreams FC versus Zamalek Sporting Club live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Sunday, 28 April at 6 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I'm chatting to the lazy Makoti about all things lazy, the lazy everything. What are you lazy about, male, female, or your partner? What are they lazy about? And it's unashamedly so, and you're just open to talk about it. But there's a quarter, but I want you to take it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hello, Anonymous.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, the lazy Makoti. This is not the lazy Makoti, better. I can do everything. I love shining pots. I think I have to start a business, as you said, to shine pots for people. Because when I go to people's homes, their pots are pathetic. You don't want to eat in that pot, from that pot. And sometimes people cook food in the pot that already got yesterday's food on it.
Are you judging
them? I don't want to eat from that pot. But I love shining pots. I love doing everything. I'm like Jamila. I can fix the electrical cables. I can fix the stove. I can wire the stove. Any electrical I can do. Wire my irons, do everything and anything. And I got no complaint. Only now, because of my age factor and my arthritis, I hate cleaning the freezer. That's the only thing I hate to do, but I can do everything from garden, from a man's job to a lady's job.
But those pots,
thank you so much.
But those
Have
pots,
nice
just as well you're anonymous, eh? You know, all the people who invited you are going to uninvite you now.
Hello?
Just as well you're anonymous, because all the people who invited you to their functions are going to uninvite you now.
Yeah, do you judge them anonymous? Do you judge those dirty pots?
I'm anonymous for the past 40 years on SAFM. Ashraf knows that.
No, but what I'm saying, I'm talking of your audience.
I'm KZN.
Yeah, okay, I'm talking about the people who listen to, who you've just said that their pots are filthy.
Dirty, yeah.
They're not going to invite you to their homes anymore.
No, I don't mind going. I don't mind not going anymore. In my age factor, I don't like going to people's homes anymore.
Oh, there you are. Okay, there we are.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You want to add to that?
Yeah, she should really start a business. I would love for someone to come shine my pots after I've cooked, because I cook a lot.
Oh, there you are. Absolutely. Okay, there's a couple of more. In fact, there's time for a few more calls. If you make it short and sharp, we've got about 4 minutes to go. There's lots of other text and WhatsApps we can play. Part of this fireside chat we do every Friday. By the way, we'll have another, next week, sort of getting into serious election mode. I know that. But right now, and here's the point about laziness. I mean, has laziness compromised you? You know, like, and I don't know about other people. Like, you know, they mention laziness, but does it also move into areas where it affects your productivity, it affects your career, it affects all things that you do?
I imagine that it can, you know, when procrastination moves into now lazy, I'd imagine that it can delay you. But I'm kind of grateful for laziness, because that's how I got to start this business.
Yeah.
Because people were lazy to learn how to cook. And now here I am.
And now these people who are lazy to learn, are they still lazy? Well, I mean, they're taking your cookbook now, right?
Well, now I'd like to believe that I've made them better people who are not as lazy with the cookbooks, with the cooking lessons that I do. I'd like to think they're in a better place.
Well, they're in a better place for being less lazy.
Yeah.
There's another call. I think it's Malesela, but you can take it. Go ahead, Lazy Makoti.
Hello, Malesela.
Hi, I sent through a voice note in regards to me being lazy with the car wash. And by the way, good afternoon, good evening, guys. I just wanted to add, and I haven't heard anyone that spoke about it. What's this? Being lazy to wash the blankets and the curtains and hanging the curtains. Guys, that thing, it takes you the whole day, and genuinely, honestly speaking, that's a havoc of a job for one to do, honestly speaking. And I'm surprised no one hasn't said anything about that. And I'm wondering if indeed are people enjoying doing that, because I definitely don't enjoy doing that at all.
Yeah.
I did it once and don't want to do it again.
Okay, got that, yeah?
That reminds me of going home to Polokwane, where you get home and my mom is like, okay, all the curtains, all the blankets have to be washed. Yes.
December time, most definitely.
Well, there you are.
That's
okay.
the worst.
Nice call, thank you. But that also falls under laundry is like, what a business, man.
I think that's a different version of it. Imagine all the curtains that are so heavy for the entire house, and then all the blankets.
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
that's one.
I know Aisha Pando, Naledi Pando's daughter, did the Sweep South, right? She owns it, which is about, but that's cleaning up the house. I'm not too sure to what degree that's going to like laundry. I don't know.
I think they can do everything,
sure,
depending on what you pay for.
It's a serious business. It seems like it, yeah.
But you see, there's money in solving the laziness problem. Clearly.
Yeah. Well, if you solve problems anywhere in the world, then there's a market that people will be willing to. They'll be willing to pay for it. I mean, have you heard like the craziest lazy story besides the one guy who said now that I'm lazy to eat? I mean, even in your conversations with other people.
I think the really crazy ones are the ones that are super easy to do, but like for some reason someone's really lazy about. You get into their room and everybody has that one chair that's filled with all the clothes that should be in the laundry basket. That will take like 1 minute to just put it in the laundry basket, but for whatever reason they're lazy to even do that.
To do it, yeah. Just the last thing as we wrap up, I hope you had great fun here on this fireside chat.
I did.
Lazy Makoti. Just a serious question. Should people fight this compulsion to be lazy, or at this point it's like, that's me?
You know what? I think, like I said, I'm a big advocate for outsourcing. If you can, just outsource it. I mean, we all have that one thing that we just really lazy to do, and you're not going to do it. I think I cook amazingly. I'm not trying to compete with anyone with the laundry, so I'm happy to outsource. And
she's outsourcing and then creating another alternate employment and growing the economy, and that's not a bad thing as well. Well, it's been great chatting to you. And in terms of your actual work as the Lazy Makoti, I mean that's champion-like stuff. So well done to you. Absolutely. There you are. We'll have another round of the fireside chat. Next week Friday, and maybe some tweaks on the show throughout the week because of elections. We know tomorrow is Freedom Day, so as per my conversation, not so much Happy Freedom Day, but think about as you commemorate it, how far are we down Freedom Road and where are we falling short? If freedom means the ability to be able to ensure that every person in our country is able to fully maximize to their fullest potential, if that's what they choose. Does that happen now? Something for you to consider. It's 6 o'clock. Have a great weekend. Time for the news with Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. NFP takes action over party finances and concern about spread of informal settlements. Good evening. We begin with election news. The NFP says it's taken action against all its members at leadership level for their failure to manage the financial books of the party in a proper manner. The party's confirmed that the IEC didn't give it the necessary political funds due to the failure by the party to provide proper audited financial statements. The NFP was one of 4 parties who did not receive funding. The NFP's Kenan Mleche.
The NFP has acted accordingly, and we have held those responsible accountable for what they have done. But over and above that, to ensure that there is a smooth running of finances of the party going forward, the party has hired new service providers in this instance, who have employed the services of a new auditing firm that is going to audit our finances.